Hello, this is your host, Adam Graham, from Pretty Much the Present. And in this video, we'll be bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2010. The podcasts are appearing, for the most part, unedited, except for some extraneous or repetitive elements that are being removed because this is a compilation. As I said, these are old, so any websites or offers mentioned may not be valid at the time you're listening unless you find them on our website currently. Now, with that said, here is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. Got any comments? Email me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley at podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And become a fan of the show on Facebook. It's facebook.greatdetectives.net. I hope everyone enjoyed this weekend's movie. I know that The Woman in Green wasn't as good as Secret Weapon, but the pairing of Bruce and Rathbone always has a little magic in it. I sometimes think that those two could sit and read the telephone book to each other, and it would sound good. They've just got incredible chemistry. All right, well, in another note, it's always a pleasure to get a hold of some rare radio treasures, and that I did, recently finding the only circulating episode of the 1948-49 series, The Lone Wolf, starring Michael Coy. That was actually a pretty fun episode. Reminded me a lot of The Saint. It's one of those episodes that makes you hope they find more episodes. Well, we'll play the one that is out there for you one of these days. All right, well, we've got a couple comments. This one comes from Dave, who says, "Hi, Adam. I love all your old-time radio shows. Yours is not the only podcast that has an associated app, but I'm curious about your point of view. What would you say to your loyal, hard-working fans who cannot afford an iPhone?" And in the same vein, we got this email. "Adam, could you please have a way that non-iPhone users can have bonus content?" Well, this isn't the first contact I've received on this. So after doing some thinking, I figured out a way that I could do it. Premium content site available for folks who don't have the iPhone or the iPod Touch, because if you've got Wi-Fi and you got the iPod Touch, you can do most of the things you can on an iPhone, except call people, of course. And here's what it's going to include. You will have access to be able to download onto your computer, and then if you've got it on your computer and you know how to do it, you can listen to it on your MP3 player or just listen to it on your computer. All the bonus episodes that we're doing for Great Detectives and for Dragnet. So you can hear the police theater episodes we've done with Policewoman and Counter Spy and Police Headquarters, as well as the episodes we've done over here with our detective actors in other roles, like Alan Ladd in Casablanca, and next month we're actually going to have Basil Rathbone in Goodbye, Mr. Chips. And you also get the commentary for the movies, as well as the basic links I always talk about on the show, right on one page where it's easy for you to use. The cost, it's basically based on use of the tip jar. And a tip of $2 will get you 3 months of access to the site. A tip of $4 will get you 6 months, and a tip of $7 will get you a year. We've already had one person sign up for the year, and I also went ahead and emailed the information to people who've just recently given us tips in the last few months to make sure that they got their time. I know one person, Brian, gave a tip part of last year, and I can't find his email address anywhere. If you're listening, email me and I'll send you the information to access this. But we now have that set up. Just go to premium.greatdetectives.net and you can learn more. Premium.greatdetectives.net. All right, well, let's go ahead and we'll get into today's show. It's an episode of Box 13, Last Will and Nursery Rhyme. We'll listen and then we'll come back.
Box 13, with the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd, as Dan Holliday.
Dear Dan, I'm inviting you up to Fair Oaks to spend the last weekend with me. Forget your Box 13 gag for a while and grab yourself a little vacation. There's not much I can offer in the way of excitement or adventure. But if you'll really go any place or do anything, you might like to see the crumbling grandeur of the last weekend.
Crumbling grandeur of the last of the Kenworths. You know how to get there, and I'll be waiting. How about it, Ted? Vacation, the man said. You know, someday I'm really going to take a vacation. But this wasn't it.
And now, back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's newest adventure, Last Will and Nursery Rhyme.
I think you should go, Mr. Holliday. You need a rest.
Oh, Susie, every time I go for a rest, something happens to me.
But what can happen at a nice, quiet place like Fair Oaks? Gee, from what your friend Ted says about it, it's just a spot to take it easy.
You sure of that, huh?
Uh-huh. Why, you'll come back all full of vim and vinegar.
Okay, Susie, you talked me into it. Forward my mail to Fair Oaks, care of Ted Kenworth. It was pleasant, a 200-mile drive through the countryside. I was forgetting all about Box 13. It chased after me all the way up to Fair Oaks. I got there in the evening, and Ted was waiting for me. Maybe I should explain Ted and Fair Oaks. You see, Ted was my closest friend at college, and, well, he had inherited Fair Oaks. One of those big, overdone houses people were fond of building in the 1890s. It looked like an insane wedding cake. Gingerbread balconies, all running around and contributing nothing to the architectural value of the place. Anyway, I parked on the drive, walked up the stairs with Ted, and into the house.
Oh, I'm glad you came, Dan. I've been wanting to have you up here for a long time, but guess I never got around to it.
Hey, what do you do for space here? Suppose you have a house full of guests and you've only got 20 rooms.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. I won't have it long.
What do you mean?
Come on in here. It's the only room with chairs.
Hey, why the crepe hanging?
Oh, I'm selling, Dan.
Selling? Oh, but you're kidding.
No, I wish I was kidding, but can't keep this place up.
You broke?
Flattered in last week's pancakes.
Oh, but I thought you inherited a lot of money
from Uncle Thaddeus? No. Not a thin, round dime.
Oh, now, wait a minute. He had $1,000 for every breath he took.
Did he?
I'm asking.
I'm telling. No, Dan. All he left me was this house.
Are you sure?
There we go again. Look, fella, I've been asked that question 1,000,000 times. All he left was the house.
It doesn't seem right. Wasn't he a millionaire?
Uh-huh.
Then where's his money?
Gone. Finished. Kaput.
But look, where could a guy like your Uncle Thaddeus spend all of his money?
That's the gold-plated question. He never spent a nickel if he could help it.
Okay, then the money's still with us.
Dan, you kill me. You're so tied up with fiction that you look for a deep, dark plot and everything.
Yeah, but this makes no sense.
It does when you check and find out that Uncle Thaddeus lived the last 5 years on credit.
Credit? You mean with all of his dough...
That's right.
Well, there must be a record of the money.
I had help looking for it.
Help? Who?
Uncle Sam. Income tax, inheritance tax. If they couldn't find the dough, how could I? No, Dan, Uncle Thaddeus fooled everybody. He didn't have a nickel.
Well, it sounded offbeat to me. Uncle Thaddeus lived close to his vest. And he had money at one time, lots of it. He never went anyplace, did anything. But our cool $3 million or so just curls up and evaporates. Or did it? Anyway, I thought about it later that night.
Oh, why don't you stop, Dan? You're supposed to take a vacation, and you're beating your brains out.
Now listen, put it together and what have you got? Uncle Thaddeus, practically a hermit. He's known to have money, but when he dies, all he leaves is this oversized lean-to.
Dan, I've looked through the whole house. I know it like the back of my hand. I lived here when I was a kid after Mother and Dad died.
What about the will?
Uncle's?
Yeah.
Well, nothing about money in it.
Excuse me, Ted.
Oh, it's okay. Come on in, Helen.
Well, I didn't knock or ring the bell. I didn't know you had company.
Oh, it's all right. Helen, this is Dan Holliday. Dan, this is Helen Stark.
How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Helen's clearing out odds and ends for me, Dan.
Odds and ends?
Well, I was Thaddeus Kenworth's secretary. That is, once in a while I was. When he got behind in cataloging books, I came in and did it for him.
Oh.
Sit down, Helen. Join the wake.
Well, I haven't much time. I want to sort out some papers. You can look them over tomorrow, Ted.
I don't want to. Throw them out.
What papers?
Mr. Kenworth kept everything.
Yeah, he collected bills, receipts, pieces of twine, bits of paper.
Oh, he wasn't that bad.
Okay, just like to keep things.
Including money.
Yeah.
What do you mean, Mr. Holliday?
Where's his money?
Well, he didn't leave any.
That's what the man said.
But he didn't, did he, Ted?
No.
Then where is it?
Helen, let me explain. You see, Mr. Holliday has a complex. To him, the simple act of taking a drink of water is filled with mystery and dark meaning.
Want to borrow my cloak and dagger?
Well, you two argue about it. I'll be all finished tomorrow, Ted, and you can look over everything. See you later, Mr. Holliday.
Oh, good.
Nice girl.
Uh-huh.
What's the matter? Don't you like her?
I just met her. What do you want me to do, start sending orchids?
Hey, come on, let's take a walk, huh?
I'd rather go over the house.
Oh, you're kidding. Why?
Oh, just to take a look.
Oh. Expect to find $1 million tucked away in an old pillowcase?
You never can tell, boy. Come on, just to satisfy my curiosity. Okay, I satisfied my curiosity. Ted knew the old place backward and forward. Almost all of the furniture had been cleared out, and if there was a hiding place for anything, we'd have found it. But it still bothered me, and it bothered me after I finally went to bed. Then, in the middle of the night, somebody was taking a walk in the house. I got out of bed, opened my door, and went to Ted's room. Ted, wake up.
Huh? What's the matter? Oh, Dan.
Be quiet.
What's the matter with you? You walking in your sleep?
I heard someone upstairs.
Oh, large mice. Go back to bed.
I tell you, I heard someone walking around. What's directly above my room?
Your room?
Yeah.
Why, this that old room I played in when I was a kid.
What's in there?
Oh, cut it out, will you, Dan?
What's in that room?
Nothing. You saw it. Trunk with some old toys in it, that's all.
I heard someone walking around up there.
Ah, you were dreaming. You've got your head so crammed
That's
full.
a car.
Huh? Yeah, so what?
But you and I are the only ones in the house.
That's what I said.
But someone just drove away from here.
That car was on the road, not on the grounds here.
Drove away from here.
All right, it drove away from here. Now go back to sleep. The next dream you have, tell Freud, not me.
I knew I'd heard someone upstairs. Somebody was going through that old room which Ted had used as a playroom when he was a kid. But why? Ted and I had gone through it with a fine-tooth comb and there was nothing there. But the next morning I wanted a better look, so Ted and I went back.
I don't know why I'm doing this except to humor you, Dan. There's nothing in this room.
Hey, how old is that horn?
I don't know, maybe 20 years. Oh, get this. Uncle Thaddeus never threw away a thing.
Not even his money.
Oh, still harping on that, huh?
Yeah. Hey, what else is in that trunk?
Oh, baseball glove, dust, ball, bat. Gosh, this rabbit's almost as old as I am. Then, let's see, tops, strings. That's all.
And there's nothing else in the room.
Nope.
Yet someone was up here last night looking for something.
Oh, Dan, stop it.
Huh? What's the matter?
Nothing. Nothing, I guess.
Come on. What were you going to say?
Wait a minute.
Lose something?
I don't know.
Why don't you know?
Seems to me there's something missing from this bunch of junk.
Well, what?
I can't remember. But there's one thing.
Toy? Horn? Train?
No. Those things are all here.
Then what's missing? Come on, Ted, think.
Oh, but it's more than 20 years ago. 25 is more like it.
Yet you know something's missing.
I don't know. It's just that something hit me, like a name you try to remember, or a place, or a date.
All right. What?
I don't know, Dan. I can't remember.
Good morning.
Oh, hiya, Mr. Wilson. Come on in.
Second childhood, Theodore? Playing with toys again?
No, just rummaging around. Dan, this is Martin Wilson, Uncle's attorney. Mr. Wilson, Dan Holliday.
Glad to know you. Well, Theodore, the papers are all ready for the sale. You can sign them anytime.
Oh, good. Be glad to get it off my mind. But I kind of hate to see the old place go.
Yes, indeed. Staying long, Mr. Holliday?
No, just the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Were you looking for something, Theodore?
Huh? Oh, no, not in particular.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you're ready, we'll sign the papers.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Wilson, but could I take a look at the will?
Eh? Will? What will?
Thaddeus Kenworth.
What for?
Dan's a writer, Mr. Wilson. He's writing now.
But could I look at it?
That will be up to Theodore.
How about it, Ted?
And when you've looked at it?
I don't know. Is this the only will?
Of course. That's the only one I've been able to locate.
Well, Dan, what'd you find?
Just the house and all that's in it.
What?
I said this clause states you'd receive the house and all that's in it.
Is there something curious in that, Mr. Holliday?
Maybe. Here's a clause that strikes me as being peculiar.
Which one's that?
Oh, listen. The happiest days of all of our lives are those spent in innocence. If you would become happy, Theodore, then remember your childhood and those things that were dear to you.
Yeah, maybe the old boy was right.
Do you read any odd meaning into that, Mr. Holliday?
Do you?
Old Thad was a peculiar man. A very peculiar person. He had streaks and quirks.
Yeah, and one of them was getting rid of a fortune in time to keep anyone else from enjoying it.
Maybe he thought people should work for their money.
What are you getting sore about, Mr. Wilson?
I'm not. Well, if you're quite finished with this will, Mr. Holliday...
Oh, yes, I am, thanks.
All right. We'd better get the business of signing the papers over with, Theodore. Can't make a buyer wait forever, you know.
All right.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, hi, Helen.
What is this? Why all the grim look?
Nothing.
I'll be finished today, Ted. Then you can look over everything.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, Ted, want to go for a walk?
Oh, sure. Excuse me.
Of course. I'll finish my work in here, Helen. Won't disturb you, will I?
No, not at all. I'll work in the library.
What's the matter, Dan?
I'm just thinking.
About what?
I'm sure I heard someone in that room last night, Ted. The room you used as a playroom when you were a kid. Now
what?
That sentence in the will about your childhood. Remember it if you want to be happy.
Oh, look. Uncle Thad was a little, eccentric.
Maybe, but it ties in. The playroom, your childhood, someone looking for something, and you're feeling something was missing from that old trunk. Look out! Huh? Ted. You all right?
Yeah. But if you hadn't given me that push, I don't know.
That coping stone would have nailed you. It fell off of the roof.
Yeah. Hey, I guess it's about time to get rid of the place. It's falling apart.
That stone didn't fall, Ted. It was pushed off.
And now back to Last Will and Nursery Rhyme, another Box 13 adventure with Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
Sure, that stone was pushed. Ted and I went to the roof, saw the marks made when the stone had been shoved forward. And it was meant to put the lights out for him. Why?
That's what I want to know. Why?
Because there's something in this house someone wants to get and keep you from getting.
You know, you're almost making me believe this.
You've got to. And you've got to think what's missing from that old trunk.
Oh, I've tried, Dan. I can't.
There was nothing in it but toys?
That's all.
Yet you say they're all there.
Well, I think so.
Now, wait a minute. Let's go at this logically. There were trains, bats, baseball mitt, mechanical toys, things like that.
What are you getting at?
Well, this. You wouldn't have missed another of those things, so the thing that's missing must be different from those. Different enough to make you realize it's gone.
Yeah. You're beginning to make sense.
Now, you try making some.
Oh, Dan, I can't.
Great. Look, would either Helen or Wilson know?
Know what? Oh, the thing that's missing?
Uh-huh.
Oh, maybe.
Both Wilson and Helen were in the house when that stone almost put a part in your hair.
Yeah?
Either one could have shoved it off. It wasn't too big or too heavy.
Yeah, but why kill me?
Because the key to this whole business is in your head. As soon as you remember what's missing from the trunk, you'll have it.
And both Helen and Wilson have keys to this place.
And therefore, either one could have come into the house the night I heard the prowling in the playroom.
All right. Where do we start now?
We try to find what was taken. But we didn't. Whoever had it had taken it away. And 2 hours of pounding at Ted didn't help. He just couldn't remember what it was. Okay. I had an idea and told Ted.
Hey, do you mean that?
Yes. You follow Wilson when he leaves, and I'll follow Helen.
Oh, I don't know.
Now, look, it's our only chance. Come right out and accuse either one, and that'll be the end. We've got to do it this way, Ted.
Well, all right.
Wait.
Ah, there you are, Theodore.
Oh, hello.
Holiday, how are you?
Just fine, thank you.
Good. Well, Theodore, it's all settled. You're getting a good price for this place, but you'll have to leave day after tomorrow.
What?
The terms of the sale. Buyer wants immediate occupancy.
Well, put it off.
What for?
Just put it off.
Look here, I sold this place for you, Theodore. Got a fine price.
Yeah, but I didn't know I'd have to leave right away.
You should have read the terms of the sale. Well, I've got to be going now. Other things to take care of. Other things.
How do you like that? I've got to get out.
Okay, that gives us less time. Now, you follow him. See what he does, where he goes, anything. I'll do the same with Helen. Helen didn't leave until that afternoon. I let her get a start and then drove after her. She didn't stop in the village. Kept going into town about 20 miles farther. I kept a safe distance behind. Then, in the town, stopped her car, got out. So did I. Well, so far, this was a blind chase. Then she went into a store, and on the window was children's toys and books. Toys and books. Children's. I edged up to the window and looked in. Helen was talking with a clerk, and she had something in her hand. And from where I stood, it looked like one of those linen-covered kids' books. Then I saw the clerk go to a shelf of books and look them over. Helen followed her. The clerk shook her head. Helen turned to leave, and I ducked to keep out of sight. Helen went to every toy shop in town, but every place she got the same answer, shake of the head. Okay. So it was Helen who had taken the missing item from the trunk, and it was a kid's book. But why? And what was in that book? It was dark when she finally headed back to the village of Fair Oaks. She didn't know it, but she was going to get company that night.
Well, hello there, Mr. Holliday.
Dan sounds better.
Well, so does Helen.
I was just in the village, thought I'd drop in and say hello.
I'm glad you did, Dan. Sit down, won't you?
Oh, thank you. All finished at the house?
Yeah. Oh, things were in a mess. Thaddeus Kenworth kept everything under the sun.
Yes, including a secret.
Secret? What secret?
Oh, just any secret. I wonder what he did with his money.
Oh, I don't think he had any. I believe he was an old fraud. Why, he lived the last 5 years of his life on credit.
Uh-huh. And there must have been a good reason for everyone extending credit to him.
Well, he was an institution around here. Everybody humored him.
Well, maybe.
Why, maybe. Did you know him?
No, but tradesmen wouldn't extend credit for 5 years without expecting to get their money.
I don't know anything about that.
I'm sure you do.
What?
How was your trip into town today, Helen? Pleasant? Profitable?
You're an odd person, Mr. Holliday.
The name's Dan, remember?
All right, you're still an odd person.
You didn't find what you were looking for, did you?
Was I looking for something?
All right, Helen, let's quit shadowboxing. You went into every toy shop in town to...
Was that a crime?
Oh, no. No, not at all. But shoving a stone off of a roof might be called one.
What does that remark mean?
Helen, I want what you took from the playroom at the house.
Well, I didn't take anything.
Oh, yes, you did. And among Uncle Thaddeus's papers, you must have seen a letter telling Ted to look in that trunk for a clue, some sort of a book.
Well, you're crazy.
But it's fun. Now, hand it over, Helen.
I told you I didn't take anything.
Listen, that stone just missed killing Ted.
Well,
And anyone who wants to kill someone has a strong motive. What's yours?
It was just an accident. I leaned on the stone.
Oh, sure. But how will it look if we put two and two together? The stone and the stolen book. I want it, Helen. Something funny?
All right, you can have it. But it won't do you any more good than it did me. Now, get out of here.
Oh, the lady's armed.
I'll kill you.
Go right ahead.
Stop there.
Must be a lot of money to make you attempt to murder and threaten another. I want that book, Helen. Now.
You stay away from me. Go. Go.
Take it easy now. There. I'll take the gun with me. And the book. It was an old book of nursery rhymes, the kind kids look at hour after hour. I took it back to Ted and told him what had happened.
Helen? But why?
Why? For what I've been harping on since I've been here, your uncle's money. And this book is the clue.
Yeah, I remember it now. That's what was missing from the trunk.
Sure. Look, Ted, Helen went through your uncle's papers and found something.
I would have sworn it was Lawyer Wilson.
That's something Helen was counting on, but I ruled him out.
Why?
Well, when I first saw the will, I noticed it had been drawn up by another firm of attorneys. If you remember, Wilson even admitted he had to hunt for it. Then Helen must have found the letter telling you to look for this book.
Yeah, but there's nothing but nursery rhymes. We've been through it a dozen times, and there's not a mark or a piece of paper in it.
Yes, I know, but we've got it.
Yeah, we've got it. And I've got to get out of here.
You've got to figure this out before you leave. Once you're out of here, you'll have as much chance of finding that money.
Yeah, I know. But...
Come on. Now, let's look through it again. See anything?
No.
I'll keep looking at it. Wait a minute.
What's the matter?
Go back.
What did you see?
I didn't see anything. It was something I didn't see.
Oh, Dan, you're crazy.
Look, Ted, look. Each rhyme is numbered. 1, 2, 3, 4, then 6. Number 5 is missing.
Hey, you're right. Helen took it.
No, she didn't.
What?
Of course she didn't. That's why she was trying to buy another one like it. But she couldn't. It's too old. All right. Number 5 is missing. What was it?
Oh, hey, I can't remember that.
Yes, you can. Now, look. Number 1, Little Miss Muffet.
Yeah.
Number 2, Simple Simon. 3, Sing a Song of Sixpence. 4, 3 Blind Mice.
Wait a minute. Wait. Mice. Mice?
No. That one's here.
No. Not Hickory Dickory Dock. The mouse ran up the clock. It's not there, and I know it was.
Your uncle took it out rather than mark it. He took it out to make it tough for you.
Yeah, but why that one?
Ted. In the hall, that grandfather's clock.
Yeah. I used to watch it for hours when I was a kid.
Well, come on.
Hey, Dan, you're terrific.
Okay, here's the clock, but it stopped.
I tried to wind it the other day, but it wouldn't go.
Now listen, the rest of the rhyme. The clock struck 1.
1 o'clock.
This clock stopped at 6. Now, what'll happen when we turn the hands until they get to 1?
Well, don't just stand there, boy. Do it.
Okay. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Easy.
1. Look, the face came open.
Hey, There's a letter.
Well, get it out and read it.
Yeah, read it. My dear nephew, since you've figured this out, I must assume you've learned that money is to be earned, not come by easily. All right, go to the sundial in the garden. Turn the indicator until it points to 12. You'll then be able to lift the face of the dial. In the column, you'll find negotiable bonds and securities. Dan,
I know. You love me.
Did you have a nice time, Mr. Holliday?
Great, Susie. Great. Do I look rested?
Well, not exactly.
That's what I thought.
Oh, maybe you won't want to go to the party tonight, then.
What party?
Well, we're all starting from the city hall.
Starting from the city hall? Why?
Oh, it's a treasure hunt. It'll be loads of fun.
Oh, Susie, how do you manage it? Good night.
Next week, same time, through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville, with an original story by Russell Hughes. Original music is composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager. The part of Susie is played by Sylvia Picker. Production is supervised by Vern Karstensen. This is a Mayfair production from Hollywood. Watch for Alan Ladd in his latest Paramount picture.
Welcome back. I don't know if having someone find a large treasure after 2 simple clues teaches the link between work and money, but give Uncle credit for trying. All right, let's get into some listener comments. On Facebook, Dorothy writes, hey, Adam, thanks for all the hard work. I love the show and your commentaries. Listening to Johnny Madero and Pete Kelly's booze really just highlights the brilliance of the writing and casting of Pat Novak, for it easily could have been a lesser show. Looking forward for a long and fruitful relationship with this show. Thanks again. Well, thanks, Dorothy. That's a keen observation. And we'll hear a lot of shows like that. They're amusing, they're fun to listen to, but at the end of the day, they didn't make it because they had some fatal flaw that stopped them from being tops. It's important to remember when listening to these shows that the golden age of detective shows was really a short period of time. Most of the shows we listened to ran between 1942 and 1952. You had to be really extra special to stand out from the crowd of sleuths ranging from the Falcon and the Saint to Sam Spade and Philip Marlowe. That's why many good shows didn't make it. You had to have it all together and also be there at the right time in order to stand out. And in the spirit of Anthony J. Lyon, if you have any problems, call me. The number is 208-991-GREAT-DEED. That's 208-991-4783. All right. Before we get into today's episode of Jeff Regan, I do want to remind you about the importance of stretching your entertainment dollar in these hard economic times. And the best way that I know of is Netflix. Netflix offers you access to a wide variety of different movies from different eras, so you can watch the movies you want. Plus, you don't have any late fees, just a steady, predictable monthly rate that you can set based on your family's entertainment needs. So remember to try Netflix. Go to greatdetectives.net, click on the Netflix banner, or go to netflix.greatdetectives.net. Well, now let's get into today's episode, The Diamond Quartet.
My name's Jeff Regan. I get 10 a day in expenses from a detective bureau run by a guy named Lyon, Anthony J. Lyon. I'm the Lion's Eye.
With Jack Webb as Jeff Regan, investigator, stand by for hard-boiled action and mystery and thrilling adventure in tonight's story of The Diamond Quartet.
The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Diamond Quartet. The Di
Well, this is the way it started. Melody called about 6 o'clock that night. She gave me the name of a restaurant out on the strip and said that Lion was waiting for me. I drove out there and found him squatting at one of the corner tables. He had a big white napkin tucked under all of his chins, and he was working on a plate of crab louis and a bottle of beer. A tall peroxide blonde in slacks and dark glasses was sitting across from him, watching him eat. And a couple of bald-headed waiters were just sort of standing around looking at the ceiling.
Well, Regan, I see you got my message. You're right on time. Sit down. I want you to meet Miss, what did you say your name was, young lady?
Madge will do. Just plain Madge, fatso.
Regan, this is Madge.
I hate gumshoes. They all stink.
Okay, where'd you find her?
Madge? Madge works for Mr. Daly, Mr. Pete Daly. He's a new client of ours. Isn't that right, Madge?
All gumshoes are nosy. That's why I don't like them.
Madge is going to drive you out to Mr. Daly's residence, Regan.
Who's Daly?
Very nice chap. I spoke with him on the phone.
What's the job?
Well, it's a rather delicate matter, and I think Mr. Daly himself can explain it better than I.
Come on, all this gassing ain't getting us nowhere. The boss is waiting. Gumshoes talk too much.
Yes, Regan, yes. I told Mr. Daly you'd be there by 7 o'clock. You just run along with Madge here and see what it's all about.
That's it.
Nice to have met you, Madge.
Ah, dry up, fatso.
Good. Call me, Regan. Call me if you run into any trouble.
Just plain Madge, who was carrying a .25 automatic in her purse. Well, we got into a Cadillac. We went out the pass, turned off a hill and back of Burbank. Daly's residence was at the end of a private road, a nice old Southern-style place with 2 or 3 private patrolmen guarding the entrance. They all needed shades. They kind of nodded when we got out of the car and went up to the front door. Naturally, there was a peep shutter there. It was real Southern.
Yes? Me, Felix. This is the private peeper the boss wants to see.
Okay, miss.
Come on this way.
Who is it?
Madge, I got your peeper. Inside. Here he is, Pete. Flat feet and all. His name's Regan.
Okay, Madge, that's all. Beat it. Sit down, Regan, sit down. Don't mind Madge. She's kind of antisocial.
Nice place you got. How's the gross?
Yeah, I do all right. 2 crab tables, 2 faro games, a little roulette in the living room, but I have to be careful.
I noticed that driving up.
There's lots of money thrown around here every night. Somebody might get some ideas. You know how it is.
What about the law?
Law? No trouble with them. I just don't let them know I'm in operation.
Mm-hmm.
In my business, I haven't much use for private detectives. I don't generally like them.
Neither does Madge.
But I happen to need one right now. I want you to do a little job for me.
You seem to have plenty of help around here. Wasn't that Felix Frazier at the door there? Last time I saw him, he was shadowing a banker up in Sacramento.
Yes, that was Felix, all right, but this is a little different. Yeah. Ever see this before? No? Well, it's a little bit of necklace called the Diamond Quartet. It's worth quite a chunk of cash. These 4 diamonds are good stuff.
So?
Dame named Annabella Callender left it here a week ago. She was in kind of deep at the roulette table and was wearing this. She left it for security.
How much did she lose?
About 5 G's, I guess. Kind of screwy little dame. She's a widow with a lot of money and a boyfriend named Teddy Silco. He paints or something. They come here.
And she loses steady.
Every time. Well, she sent me a check today for the full amount of what she lost.
Yeah?
And I want you to take this thing back to her tonight.
That it?
That's it. I got my dough. She gets her little diamond necklace back. Just business.
Well, it sounds simple.
It's simple. You're a licensed investigator, bonded, insured. Don't want any fuss about this. You just take it back. Very simple.
Okay. Now, you told me how simple it all is. Suppose you give me the hook. Did her check bounce?
You want a drink? There wasn't any check.
I thought it'd be something like that.
Yeah. She called me a couple of hours ago, said if I didn't have this thing back by tonight, she'd call a load of cops and come out and get him.
Not such a dumb dame at that.
Yes, you're telling me. If she comes here with cops, I'm closed for the season, and this dump cost me a pile of dough. Felix was running the roulette table that night. I didn't know he'd taken this as security until we counted up. I should have pushed his mush in or something, letting a dame like that make us a setup.
Yeah, maybe you'll do better next time.
Ain't gonna be no next time, Regan. Here's her address. Here's the ice. Just take it to her and I'll chalk it up to experience.
You better get yourself a new boy at that table.
Yes, you're telling me.
Well, I took a taxi over to the restaurant in Hollywood, picked up my Buick, and drove to an apartment house near Pico and Beverly Drive. A couple of men in a little gray coupe were sitting in front of the building smoking cigarettes and pulling on their hat brims. I figured Daly was making sure I got the right address. Upstairs on the 5th floor, I leaned into the buzzer and waited to see what Mrs. Annabella Callender looked like.
Oh, Teddy, I thought you'd never get here. The performance begins at 8:15, and you know the traffic. Oh, you aren't Ted.
You Annabella Callender?
Well, of course. Who are you?
My name's Regan.
Oh, Miss Regan. Well, I'm only waiting for Ted to get here so we can make first curtain at the Biltmore. We're seeing Carousel, and we're going to be late if he doesn't get here. You can understand that.
Yeah, it figures.
And I'm all ready, and he hasn't shown up. Well, good night.
Yeah. Her white ermine cape and the black strapless thing needed a touch. But she had it. That necklace I had in my pocket, or a very good copy, was hanging around her neck, and it looked like 4 Klieg lights at a Hollywood premiere.
Hey, lay off. You bust the door, lay off. What's the idea? You want to bust down the door? You drunk or something?
I've been pounding on this door for 5 minutes.
Well, that's too bad. Can't you read the signs? The building's closed, the scram, drift, push off, blow.
You got a jeweler in this building named Tartaglia?
Yeah, we got a jeweler named Tartaglia. Only don't want to see nobody because it's 9 o'clock at night. The joint's closed and he ain't here.
All right, slow down. He lives someplace, don't he?
Sure. There's a lot of houses that way. Why don't you try knocking on doors?
There wasn't any residence listed in the phone book. I thought maybe if I came down here to his office, you could tell me where I might see him.
I ain't going to tell you nothing.
Look, I'm a private investigator. I got to see him tonight.
Oh, how's little old expense account, Pilgrim?
It'll do.
Let me see, pal. The name's Freddie Leach. Your boy's a fat old pile of blubber with a lot of talk in this note. White Hotel, 208, 3 blocks, straight ahead.
Thanks, Freddie.
Anytime, pal. From the store, Buck, I'll tell you where his girlfriend lives.
Well, come in, Mr. Regan. Come in. You find me a bit indisposed at this hour. I was preparing to retire, but you said it was a matter of jewelry. Therefore, Bert Tartaglia is at your service. Now then, sir, what is so urgent?
I came to see you about a diamond necklace. I found your name stamped on the inside.
House of Tartaglia, most respected name in diamonds as in all the lapidary arts. Most respected. I'm the last of 4 sons. All... But continue, Mr. Regan.
Take a look at this.
And how do you come into possession of the diamond quartet, sir?
A man named Daly, who runs a gambling club, hired me to take it back to a lady named Callender.
Gambling house? And how did Mr. Daly acquire it?
She lost it at the roulette table. She left it so she could raise the cash.
Deplorable conduct on her part. Annabella Callender, a very indiscreet young lady, to be sure. Lovely body, propelled by a ridiculous mind.
I tried to take it back to her tonight.
Beautiful. Isn't it, Mr. Regan?
I want to know if it's real or not.
Real? Of course it's real.
You sure?
Mr. Regan, do you doubt my ability as a gemologist? Once in a lifetime, sir, only once in a lifetime, does an artisan have the opportunity to create the perfect necklace.
How much will it pull?
Priceless in the amount of work. Roughly $65,000. See, here, under the light. See how carefully each stone is mounted. Without reservation, I pronounce the Diamond Quartet an incomparable masterpiece.
Well, I saw one just like it tonight.
Huh? I don't quite follow you, sir. No one could create another Diamond Quartet except Bert Tartaglia.
Well, and somebody made up a pretty good imitation.
The finest workman at best would create only a crude resemblance. This kind of work demands an artist, Mr. Regan, an artist.
But it could get by.
Oh, to the unpracticed eye, yes. To the layman, perhaps, yes.
Mm-hmm. That's all I wanted to know.
Native in Angus Herber, eh?
What was that?
Latin. A snake in the grass, eh?
Maybe.
Your expression tells me you are concerned for the safety of this piece. I have a safe here in my room if you'd care.
No, it'll be all right.
Well, then, you leave satisfied, I trust.
Yeah, thanks.
Think nothing of it, Mr. Regan. Think nothing of it. Just remember the house of Tartaglia when you want fine jewels. Good evening, sir.
In the lobby, I got 2 3-cent stamps from the clerk. He watched me put the Diamond Quartet in an envelope, address it to myself, and mail it right there. He blinked a couple of times, but I didn't tell him about my 2 pals parked across the street in the little gray coupe. Well, they were sitting there, still sucking on cigarettes and pulling on their hat brims. When I walked outside, they got out of the coupe, came over to where I was lighting a cigarette. The tall one tapped me on the shoulder.
Here's the paper, Georgie. Want to ask him for a match? Georgie's nearsighted.
That's too bad.
That's him, Daddy. Got a match, Peeper? Georgie asked if you got a match, Peeper. He's a dummy, Georgie. Don't talk. Got a match, Peeper? But I tell you, he's a dummy. You don't look like no dummy. Oh, he's a dummy, all right, ain't you, Peeper? See, he's a dummy, Georgie. I told him about you being nearsighted, and he said it was too bad. Didn't you, Peeper? He still don't talk. Go on, Peeper. Tell Georgie how sorry you are about it being nearsighted. I told you he was a dummy, Georgie. Are private eyes like you? Georgie asked you questions. He wants to know if all private eyes is like you. Danny boy says you're a dummy. You a dummy? Georgie asked you another question. He wants to know if you're a dummy. See, don't answer. I don't like dummies. We asked 3 questions already, and he ain't said nothing. That makes him a dummy. Maybe we find something if we went through the dummy's pockets. Yeah, even a dummy's got pockets. Ain't that right, dummy? Hold it, Georgie. Hey, move just like a dummy.
What do you want?
Hey, talk. Yeah. Make him talk again, Georgie. Oh. Make him talk bigger, Georgie. Oh. Talks real nice, but he don't say much. Think maybe he's tough, Georgie? He might think he's tough. But then again... You see? He ain't so tough. Now it's my turn. Hey. You don't talk no more, Danny. This Peeper ain't no pretty picture, Georgie. Why you want to hold him up?
You are listening to the story of the Diamond Quartet, tonight's adventure with Jeff Regan, investigator. 29,000 nurses are needed now to join the new Army Nurse Corps Officers Reserve. For the first time in history, qualified nurses are given the opportunity of receiving a commission in the regular Army Reserve. These nurses will remain on inactive status, ready to serve their country in the event of an emergency. 4,000 of them, if they wish, may choose active duty. Inactive reserve status will not interfere with the nurse's civilian life, but the educational opportunities offered her by the Army Medical Department will be of a great advantage to her in her work. So don't wait. If you're a registered graduate nurse between the ages of 21 and 45, drop a card now for complete information to the Adjutant General, Washington, D.C. And now, back to the story of the Diamond Quartet and Jeff Regan, investigator.
Regan, can you hear me, Regan? Nurse, are you sure he's coming too?
He had quite a beating, Mr. Lyon, but he's coming around.
Regan, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Regan, can you hear me?
I think he's with us now.
It's me, Regan. What happened to you? Why didn't you call? Regan, do you understand me?
What's this?
That's your head, and it isn't very pretty, let me tell you that.
I'll be at my desk, Mr. Lyon.
All right. Come on, give it to me. What happened? An hour ago, the receiving hospital telephones me they picked you up in some gutter. I come down to see what's what, and you lay there and ask me, what's this? Well, it's a wrong job. Another punk client.
As long as they've got the dough, we love them all. Who are you fighting with?
A couple of boys named Danny and Georgie.
A couple of boys named Danny and Georgie. Well, would you mind telling me just where you've been while you should have been doing what you were hired to do?
I was out with Danny and Georgie.
Sure. You were out with Danny and Georgie. But what did you do before that? And what did you do with the necklace? That diamond quartet or whatever it is.
I mailed it.
You mailed it? You were hired to deliver that thing personally, and you mail it.
Where's my clothes?
Regan, I'll never understand you. I'll never understand you or the way you do things. I send you out on a simple little job. All you have to do is take a necklace back, and what do? You wind up bleeding all over the city street. Here's your pass.
What time you got?
3 o'clock in the morning. It's always 3 o'clock in the morning when somebody telephones me that you're in trouble somewhere.
Well, why don't you go home and go back to bed?
I haven't been to bed. I haven't had one wink of sleep tonight. You know why? Because on top of all my other troubles, some dame who sounds like she has a snoot full of hooch has been calling my place every half hour asking for you. My place.
Why didn't you tell her to call my place?
I did tell her to call your place. I told her a couple of 100 times to call your place. Then I told her to shut up.
Coat.
Here. You look terrible. Terrible.
She give you a name?
Annabella something or other. I don't know. Mm-hmm. What I want to know is... Hey, where are you going? Who's going to pay this hospital bill? Where are you going?
Well, the cab driver circled twice before he picked me up, but he got me out to her place in 20 minutes. When I got upstairs, her door was halfway open, and the light from the hallway kind of seeped in. She was sitting in a big chair right by the door. I don't know why, but she was holding the phone on her lap, just sitting there, looking at nothing.
Oh, Mr. Regan. It's you. You came back.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to need this.
Oh. Well then, Mr. Regan. Well then. I suppose you've met some people tonight who know a great deal about me.
Some? A gambler? A jeweler?
And of course they told you how I carry on with money and all that. Everyone seems to know that.
Yeah, Daly told me.
Do you know about Charles? Charles and I had so many things together, and it was so much fun being alive with him. You like to have fun, Mr. Regan? I do think he enjoyed being alive with me. I mean, I cried when Charles was killed. I really did. I cried. I didn't know what to do. I cried.
How long ago was that?
Oh, Charles was killed 3 years ago. But now I have Teddy. He's really a dear. You should meet him. We should all have a drink together or something. Teddy's a fine artist. Very fine artist. I think you'll be very prominent someday. I really do think Teddy will be very prominent someday. Of course, it wouldn't make any difference now. Did they tell you that did they tell you... It's funny. I can't seem to get my tongue adjusted to my mouth. Has that ever happened to you, Mr. Regan?
Sometimes.
Teddy asked me to marry him tonight.
He did?
Yes, I've been very lonely since Charles died, and this is my money that Teddy's interested in, I'm certain. Teddy has some money of his own, although many people don't know it. What is money, Mr. Regan? What would you say, money? Oh, yes, I go again to that business about my tongue. You think I should see a correction?
Why did you call me tonight?
Oh, you're the only detective I know. And I really don't know you. It's just that Mr. Daly said you were a detective.
Why did you want to see me?
I really can't understand money. I know it must sound strange to you, but... Some people live for it, and some people die for it, and some people...
What's wrong? What is it? Come on.
Oh, they do look so funny. So very funny. I've seen them count money. Oh, so much money. I really believe that's all they live for. cuddled and caressed him now.
Come on, tell me, what's wrong? What is it? What is it? She was pointing to a black spot across the room. I found the light switch and turned it on. Oh, yeah, they looked funny, all right. It was Daly and his dumb roulette table man, Felix. And both of them were as dead as you can get.
All night. I knew you'd telephone and say you'd marry me.
Yeah. Your name's Silko?
Oh, yes, I was expecting...
My name's Regan. I'm a private investigator. I'm calling from her apartment.
Annabelle's?
Now, listen. There's been a couple of murders here.
What?
She's had quite a jolt. She's going to need you and all the help she can get. I called homicide, and, well, it might be kind of rough for her.
I'll bring a doctor.
And a lawyer.
I've got a good one. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Well, he showed up about the same time Wendetti and the homicide boys got there. By that time, she couldn't even talk, and they had to put her to sleep. I told Wendetti what I knew about it, and he said we'd get it straightened around as soon as she had something to say. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning when I got home. I didn't expect my boy to show up so soon. He was already there.
Regan. I've been expecting you. Come in, sir. Come in. I've been amusing myself with your chessboard. So we meet again. Sit down, sit down. You've had rather a hectic night, I'll wager.
Your boys were pretty rough.
Georgie and Danny. Two men of another world, Regan. Not our world. Allow me to apologize for their actions. And so unnecessary, too. I underestimated you, Regan. Such an ingenious method of protecting the Diamond Quartet. Why, sir, by the simple expedient of placing a 3-cent stamp on an envelope and mailing it to you yourself, you hired as guardians the entire United States Postal Service, not to mention the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps.
You want one of these?
No, thank you, Regan. Much too early in the day. But go ahead. You give me cause to admire you again, sir. I am one of those faint-hearted persons who cannot abide liquor until 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
All right. What happens now?
By gad, I admire your directness, Mr. Regan. When I met you last night, I promised myself you'd give me trouble, and you have.
Who's in on it?
Such directness. In answer, sir, that is a matter to be explained.
Double cross.
If you can bear my vanity, I have invented a new word. Triple cross. It does have a ring to it, doesn't it?
Sounds familiar.
My gad, sir, I like you.
Daly in on this?
Daly? No, of course not. A mere instigator. But when Madge explained to me that he was returning the Diamond Quartet, I first conceived the plan.
Just plain Madge.
She and her friends have been very valuable to me.
They knocked off Daly and Felix and planted them in the girl's apartment.
Right. With 2 cadavers in her living room, Mrs. Callender was very unlikely to discuss missing jewelry with the police.
Then it was a phony she was wearing, and she didn't even know it, huh?
And it caused all of this. If you had merely returned it, it would have been simple to remove it from her. But then...
And you just sit here and wait for the mail.
We wait for the mail, Mr. Regan.
What about your playmate?
You do act your role, don't you? And I like you for it, Mr. Regan. I wish you and I could have worked out something together. An unbeatable team. In answer, sir, I'm afraid I shall be sought for murder. The 2 this night.
Danny and Georgie?
And Madge. Does that name bother you as much as it bothers me? Give me a woman with a name like Celeste or Josephine or Roxanne. Those, sir, are proper names for the creatures. But Madge... Huh?
Where are the police going to find all these bodies?
In my hotel room, which I departed hastily.
I know a man down at Central Homicide named Wendetti.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. He's the best cop I've ever seen. You'll never get away with it.
Allow me to correct you, sir. I don't intend to get away with it. Observe me well. You see before you a man advanced in years, attached to a destitute and bankrupt jewelry firm, with nothing more to look forward to than a grim few years, and finally the end. Now an opportunity to live like a king, and by God, sir, I've taken it.
They'll pick you up before you can pack a bag.
I'll risk that.
I shall turn the diamond quartet into cash, and with a well-laden purse, I shall be satisfied to elude the police over half the world. Oh, yes, they'll get me. In 2 years, 3 years, perhaps. By that time, I shall have spent the money. And what more could a man ask than a perfect fulfillment of all his wishes? Huh? I ask you, sir, as one gentleman to another, what more could a man ask? You have company, and I have a gun. Answer it. Tell him to go away. I'll be right with that. All right. Open it.
One side, Thomas. I got a gun.
Madge.
Thought I'd find you here, blubber boy. Get into such a good job on me.
Caution, my dear. I have a gun, too.
Last long enough to let you at it. Get out of my way, people. Oh!
Mr. Regan, sir. I believe I've been shot. I'll need it. Assistance. I can't seem to hold my feet, sir. Hold my feet. The mortal is nil nisi bonum, Mr. Regan. Or, if your second year Latin escapes you, speak well of the dead. It was an awkward plan at best. Wasn't it?
It was a lousy idea. Well, there wasn't anybody left for Wendetti to arrest, so we sat around and looked at each other. Wendetti agreed that Madge double-crossed Daly. Tartaglia double-crossed Madge and her boys. Yeah, triple-cross. Well, the Lion had something on his mind. He wanted to know, was I satisfied with what I got out of this case? I didn't answer him. I need the job.
The Army Nurse Corps Reserve still has commissions available. If you are a graduate registered nurse between the ages of 21 and 45, you may be eligible for a commission in the Army Nurse Corps section of the Regular Officers Reserve. Graduate work is provided at the Army's most modern teaching centers, and the nurses obtain educational experiences that benefit them in both civilian and military nursing. If you believe you qualify for a commission in the Army Nurse Corps Reserve, apply to the Adjutant General, Washington, D.C. Jack Webb is featured as Jeff Regan, with Wilms Herbert as Anthony J. Lyon. The role of Bert Tartaglia was played by Barry Kruger. Lorene Tuttle was Annabella Callender. It's CBS same time next week for trouble, suspense, and thrilling adventure with Jeff Regan, Investigator. Written by E. Jack Newman, produced by Gordon T. Hughes, directed tonight by Cliff Howell. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. You'll have to forgive me if I stumble and, I'm just noticing that I wrote this as if these shows were all going to be listened to at evening because I was recording them, and so I'm still reading from the script. The end of the show and the last PSA were connected. If only they let men into the Nurses Corps back then, Army Nurses Corps, it would have solved Regan's problem. Lorene Tuttle was one of the actresses who played a lot of roles on radio. Her most famous one was as Sam Spade's secretary, Effie. And the role she played in today's show, I think, was critical to that. I also thought the show really had a homage in it to the Maltese Falcon's Fat Man, even though they never, I didn't hear him refer to him as a fat man. The way that the character acted, you could definitely tell that Casper Gutman was an influence there. then you also have this great scene with the two mugs coming up to Regan, and Regan just not saying anything. And a lot of the signature Newmanisms that I've come to love, the one thing I've noticed is that Pilgrim seems to be a favorite catchphrase for his characters. Since the second episode, I think we've had at least one character walking around saying Pilgrim. All right, well, now into our listener comments and feedback, Pilgrim. A special thanks to Jennifer for a very nice tip. A comment from Lone Wolf 330 who writes, "Love all your podcasts, even Dragnet, but I was wondering if you're planning to add the Shadow to your Great Detectives podcast. You might say he was a superhero when he was clouding men's minds so they could not see him, but he was still a detective. Always keep up the great work." Thanks for the comment. I have to say, there's often a very thin line between detectives and crime fighters. However, I think the Shadow belongs clearly in the crime fighters category. When I'm listening to that show, particularly the Orson Welles episodes, I'm really reminded of Batman that I watched, the animated series I watched growing up. I'd love to do the Shadow sometimes a podcast. I've had an idea for a Shadow and Green Hornet podcast. Don't know if it'll happen, though. Time being a most precious commodity. I got a comment here from Podcast Alley, simply, I love the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. And then I got an email from Colin who said that he found Pat Novak for hire and was wondering if I knew what kind of rights were required to broadcast. I'm part of a theater company in Seattle, and we are considering re-recording some of the stories in front of a live audience. We're a very small startup non-profit theater. Do you know who we would need to contact about the rights? This is a tough question, and I have to give my standard, I'm not a lawyer, disclosure. But as I understand it, with the passage of copyright legislation in the 1970s, copyrights were extended to unpublished works for the life of the author plus 70 years. In essence, what's needed is to adapt the script, which, as it was never published, is probably still under copyright by the original rights owner or his or her successor. In the case of Pat Novak, the rights to the Pat Novak's for Hire scripts would probably belong to the estate of Richard Breen, the writer. Mr. Breen actually did have a son who was a screenwriter as well, Richard Breen Jr. He wrote for several shows, including the 1970s classic Logan Run. The last I found of him was a novel he self-published in 2001, The Octoroon Ball. I actually tried to locate Mr. Breen to see if he had an answer to the question, but all I was able to come up with was an old disconnected phone number. This really illustrates the big challenge old-time radio acting groups have had. The law seems to indicate that technically people need to obtain permission, but there's no one to obtain permission from that's easily available. Thus, many groups do scripts without permission because most of the old-time radio and its scripts have been abandoned. You can probably contact Condé Nast Publication to see about permission for doing The Shadow, and there's those who for those who want to stay within the letter of the law, it's a tough process. I've thought about getting together a group to do a family theater script, but the thought of trying to track down the owners of the script is daunting. Anyway, hope that helps. I've already answered Colin by email, but thought it might be an interesting perspective for listeners as well. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. Got any comments? Email me. Box13@greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley at podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives. Nero Wolf continues to get a lot of support. Jim comments on Facebook. Thanks for all your hard work, and consider this my vote for Nero Wolf in the future. Thanks for the comment, Jim. Not a whole lot to get into today before we get started. I then want to remind you as you make your web hosting plans, they'll look at getting an additional domain. Remember 1&1. An absolutely fantastic web host that has really just been the best I've been with, and they offer an incredible price. Go to greatdetectives.net, click on the 1&1 banner to learn about the current specials going on, whether it's for big business, small business, personal website, or just for domain renewals. Remember 1&1, the world's #1 web host. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into today's episode of Let George Do It, The Corpse That Took a Powder.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and Standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. The Corpse That Took a Powder, another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice, danger is my stock and trade. If life's tossing curves you can't handle, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Dear Mr. Valentine, they say that if you think about suicide twice, you won't go through with it. Well, I've thought of suicide over and over again. Tomorrow evening, I'm going through with it. Unless by then you can find some way of freeing me from this horror and the fear that's driving me to this. Hurry. Please hurry, Mr. Valentine. I need somebody's help so badly.
I need somebody's help so badly. I'm desperate. And it's signed Marcia Palmer, Afton Apartments 4A.
All right, Brooksy, we'd better get on our bicycles.
Wait a minute, George.
Huh?
Well, don't you think this note sounds, well, a little hysterical? Offbeat?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Come to think of it, let's change that to motorcycle.
Well, I meant something else. Why don't we telephone the Afton Apartments? Tell the young lady just to stay put till we get over there.
Angel, too much of a chance. Suppose we aren't persuasive enough. It might rush things along.
Well, still,
It may not be easy to explain a great horror of fear in so many words on the phone.
Yeah, well, maybe you're right.
So come on, Brooksy. There's only one way to tell. Excuse me, Mother.
Oh, young man. You nearly frightened me out of my wits.
Oh, sorry. We just wanted to get to one of those bells.
Oh. Funny how you fall into a routine, miss. First, I shine up the mailboxes in the vestibule. Then I work on the brass around the buzzer.
Yeah, well, that's a very nice system, but...
A little intelligence doesn't hurt, even if you're only a scrub woman.
Oh, no truer words were ever spoken. What was that apartment number again, George?
Of course, I haven't always done this kind of work. I wouldn't be doing it now if I weren't at liberty. But when you've got a job to do, you do it the best you know how.
Yeah, you're so right, Mother. But how about letting us at Marcia Palmer's bell?
Miss Palmer?
That's what the gentleman said.
Yeah, I've been worried about that girl the last few days.
Worried? Why?
Oh, you know how it is with people's appearances. You can always tell. She's afraid of something. Yes, sir, afraid.
Uh-huh. Well, we'll try to take care of that. Which one of these bells do we ring?
No, you don't have to press the bell. Just take the elevator up. It's self-service. It's the 3rd floor, 3A. I know she'll be glad to see friends, the poor soul.
3A. Hey, are you sure it's 3A?
Young man, I haven't worked here for a long time, I have. I should know where the tenants live. Of course, I'm only a scrub woman.
All right, Mom, all right, sorry. 3A it is.
What's the matter, George?
Nothing. I just think more than ever we ought to hurry. Maybe Miss Palmer has thought of suicide once too often.
Here we are, George. 3A.
Yeah. She's just got to be in, Brooksy. Well, that's a good sign. I heard somebody moving inside.
Good.
What? Hello. Oh. Miss Palmer at home?
I haven't the slightest idea.
What?
Well, I've been trying to work up enough nerve to find out that very thing for myself.
Well, you certainly should be in a position to know. This is her apartment, isn't it?
Huh? Look, did I meet you people somewhere with Marcia? Here at my place at a party, perhaps?
Hey, now, wait a minute. Is this your place?
Well, that's what the lease says. The name is Glenn Stratton. I'm a commercial artist when I work.
Well, where does Marcia Palmer live?
Right over my head, just like an angel. Apartment 4A.
Sorry. It seems we got the wrong information.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong, is there? I've been worried about Marcia lately. She hasn't seemed herself.
Yeah, I know. Afraid of something.
That's exactly it.
Come on, let's get upstairs, Brooksy.
Oh, if you see her, old man, would you tell her that her persistent suitor would love to have dinner with her?
The charge will be $1 for 10 words, Mr. Stratton.
All right.
Come on, honey. No use waiting for the elevator.
Mr. Stratton is quite a boy. Any minute you expect him to step back into Esquire.
Yeah, that's right. I wonder why Mother down in the vestibule gave us a bum steer about the apartment number. If anybody, she should know where people live in this place.
Well, let's be charitable and say she's slightly pixelated.
This must be it. Here, Angel. I better try it again.
Obviously, Marcia hasn't any fear of the outside world. The door's open.
Miss Palmer?
Let's try the living room. Oh.
Did you say living room, Brooksy?
She's...
Yeah, that stuff all over the front of her is in red ink.
Oh, George, maybe we better...
Brooksy, don't touch.
But
this is a deal for the police. Anyway, she was considerate enough to leave a note right here by the gun.
Oh. What does it say?
Please forgive me. I hope this doesn't hurt anybody too much. But I really can't go on any longer. Marcia.
Oh, maybe if we'd come sooner.
She must have a telephone somewhere around here. Usually they belong on desks.
Oh, maybe it's in the bedroom. Oh, if we only knew what she meant by the fear that was driving her to this.
There's a lot of things we don't know about Marcia Palmer.
There's the phone on the bed table.
Oh, you're good. I don't know how I'm going to explain this to Lieutenant Riley. Hello, Riley's office, please. This is Valentine.
It seems simple enough to explain, but when you're all through, somehow you don't believe it.
Oh, hello, Riley. Yeah, me. I'm at the Afton Apartments, 45 Lorraine. Yeah, I know you're happy to know where I am. Now, look, a client of mine, Marcia Palmer's committed suicide. Okay, I know it's a big town and you can't go poking into every suicide, but... Oh, sure, I could report it through the ordinary channels, but believe me, there's something offbeat about this case. Okay, if you don't want to bother, I'll just take care of this myself. Okay. Well, I guess we can expect a lieutenant, Brooksy.
Good.
Now, let's get inside and see what we can find around here.
Oh, I don't think I'd like to look at her again if I can help it.
Just take it easy, Brooksy. I don't think you're going to have to look at her.
What do you mean?
She isn't there.
But that's impossible.
I know. She couldn't have just walked out of here.
And the note's gone.
Oh, Riley's going to love this. Well, anyway, the gun is still here. There's something I'd like to know right now, Brooksy.
What do you mean, George?
Do I or don't I have a client?
Well...
And if I do, where is she? Dead or alive? Oh, hey, you. You're the janitor here, aren't you?
I'm the superintendent here, if that's what you mean.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chief. Not that I believe anything like this happened, but did you notice Miss Palmer leave the building within the last few minutes?
Oh, the model?
Oh, whatever she was, did you see her?
No, and I've been working on this lawn for the last half hour. And if she did, I certainly would have... Young lady, did you say whatever she was?
Skip it, Chief. Now, did you see anyone else come out carrying a large bundle and driving off with it?
Nobody. This is a very quiet time of the day around here.
I see.
Hey, look, who are you people anyway?
Say, I want to talk to that elderly lady who cleans the halls for you.
And have you understand that I do every stitch of work around here myself. That's why it's so neat and clean.
But we talked to a scrub woman when we came in.
In the flesh.
We don't have a scrub woman here. The way I keep this place, you can eat off the floor.
But
We have no scrub woman.
Valentine, aside from being a cop, I'm trying to be a logical, understanding man. When you tell me there was a girl sitting in this chair when you came in and she committed suicide, natural curiosity makes me ask one simple question. Where's the body?
We don't know.
Stop repeating yourself, Miss Brooks.
But she was there.
And while you were telephoning me in the bedroom, the corpse walked out on you. Well, I don't know why I should let that upset me. That sort of thing happens every day.
Well, it happened today.
Well, what about this letter she sent me, Lieutenant? And there's the gun, still on the desk.
Valentine, half the people who write you should be rounded up with a butterfly net.
The gun, Lieutenant?
Yes, we'll look at that right now. Careful, like, so we won't destroy the all-important fingerprints in this amazing case. There. Do you see what I see, Mr. Valentine?
Yeah.
Not one shot's been fired.
Mm-hmm. And from the looks and smell of this murderous instrument, I'd say it hadn't been used in weeks.
All right. I admit I'm stumped.
And this is the gun the girl who isn't here used to commit suicide. How do you know she was even dead? Did you examine the body?
That's not fair, Lieutenant. You know you're not supposed to touch the body.
And where is this female Harvey who loves to polish mailboxes and doorknobs, but who doesn't work here?
Don't rub it in, Lieutenant. But I'm going to find an answer to this.
Oh, it's all yours. I'm going to have one of the boys track down your Miss Palmer for you, but if you ask me, my friend, somebody's taking you for a ride.
Well, if you ask me, my friend, it's Marcia Palmer who's been taken for a ride.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Meanwhile, a word about conservation in your car. If you're not getting full gasoline mileage from your car, better have the spark plug serviced for dirty, chipped, or cracked plugs. Often waste as much as 1 gallon out of every 10 gallons of gasoline. That's throwing away quite a bit of money, even if you buy only 10 gallons of gas a week. To help your spark plugs do their job, and they do have to fire 1,000,000 times in every 1,000 miles, get them cleaned and reset. For this money-saving service, depend on the men who have a reputation for expert car care at standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations. If your spark plugs have given you 10,000 miles of service, you'll be money ahead by getting a new set of Atlas Champions. These spark plugs are precision-made for accurate timing, full flash sparking, trouble-free service without fuel waste. And you can get Atlas Champion spark plugs at independent Chevron gas stations and at standard stations, where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. And now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. Well, a young model threatens suicide, so you darn quick get over to her apartment. But she's already dead. You go into the bedroom to call Lieutenant Riley on the phone, but when you come back, the body isn't there at the desk anymore. All of which makes no sense at all. But if you're like George Valentine, you find yourself face to face with, of all things, a theatrical agent.
No, Max. None of the ladies in these pictures is the one I'm looking for.
Oh, what are you saying, Georgie? Every one of these ladies spent the better part of their lives scrubbing floors in front of audiences.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it. But
Edna Tremaine. Look at her there. In one place, she spent 2 full acts on her knees scrubbing floors to send her son through medical school.
Uh-huh.
And then, in the 3rd act, when he's the president of the same medical school, he passes her in the corridor. You don't even recognize it. Pathetic, ain't it?
Yeah, I'm all choked up, Max. But will you listen to me?
Wasn't I all the time?
No, I told you I feel pretty sure that someone hired a woman and a darn good actress to play the part of a phony scrub woman at the Afton Apartments today.
How can you be so sure she was an actress, Georgie?
A phrase she used, Max. She said she only worked there because she was at liberty. Now, that's a theatrical term. You know that.
At liberty? Oh, I hate those words. The more I hear them, the more money I don't make.
Come on. Think hard, Max. I described it to you. She has a thin, hatchet-like face with eyes that tried to smile at you, but you couldn't quite believe it.
Wait a minute, Georgie. I got a few more pictures. People I ain't used for years. I'll let you see them. Hold it till I call my secretary. Who am I kidding? I ain't got a secretary.
Oh, same old Max. Hey, there's room for $10 on the expense account if you can be of help.
Must be down here in this drawer. Here, take a look, Georgie.
Okay, all right. No.
That one it wouldn't be. Very versatile. Well, it's strictly burlesque.
Hey, wait a minute. Who's this?
You recognize her?
She's the one, all right. What's her name? Where does she live?
I'll get you that information in a minute, sir. I'll just get my secretary.
Max?
Yeah. Who am I kidding? Well, I used to have a secretary. Anyway, on the back of it says her name is Amy Randall.
Address?
Hotel Raleigh, character parts, all dialects, glad to audition, age over 21. They all say that.
Okay, thanks, Max. I think I found just what I want.
I don't know how you found out where I live, Mr. Valentine, and I don't know what you want from an old scrub woman.
Do you mind if I hold your hand a minute, Mom?
Now, young
Such
man,
soft, well-kept hands. Not the hands of a scrub woman.
Huh?
Come on, Amy. Give it to me straight. I know all about you. You're an actress.
Oh. And I thought I played my part so perfectly.
Oh, that you did. You did that. You deserve 3 curtain calls. But come on now. Who hired you to be there just when we arrived?
When you've been out of work as long as I have, Mr. Valentine, you don't ask any questions. $50 for an hour's work is a lot of money.
Who was the man?
He never said.
He gave you a check, didn't he?
No, it was all cash.
What did he look like?
Well, he was rather short and stout.
Uh-huh.
And he had just a kind of fringe of gray hair on his head.
Yeah?
Told me he saw me on the stage once and looked me up. He said he was playing a practical joke on somebody. I just had to say I was worried about Miss Palmer and put on an act.
Uh-huh.
For a moment there. Didn't you really believe I was the scrub woman? Didn't you?
I told you before, Mom, you were slightly terrific.
You don't know what it means for me to hear you say that.
And you don't know just what kind of part you played in the little drama today.
What?
But then again, that makes us even, Mom. I don't know that either.
All right. If that's the way it has to be, the 3 of us will sit down here in the lobby until Miss Palmer gets home tonight.
I don't know why you're here at all, Lieutenant Riley. I thought you were convinced that this was all a weird joke and somebody was taking George for a ride.
Well,
Practically your own words, Lieutenant.
Valentine, I can handle you alone. And, Miss Brooks, I don't have too much trouble with you either. But when both of you gang up on me like this,
Yes?
Well, the truth is we haven't been able to find the Palmer dame all afternoon. And I just didn't put 1 man on the job, but 6. I covered all the places she usually hangs around, too, and nobody's seen her.
If you just stop blustering and pouting, Lieutenant, I'd like to say thanks for coming back.
Yeah? Well, I'm not doing you any favors. Every time you get a case like this, I get a headache. Let's say I'm here just because I can't afford to buy any more aspirin.
Well, how do you figure it, Lieutenant? Somebody went to a lot of trouble to hire an actress so she could create an appropriate atmosphere for the so-called suicide.
I know, Miss Brooks, I know.
Lieutenant Riley.
Stratton, I told you the first word I got about her, I'd let you know.
Oh, thank heaven you're still here.
What's the matter with you? What happened?
She's up there.
Huh? Miss Palmer?
Up where?
In her apartment. She's sitting there at the desk. I thought for a moment she'd speak to me, but she didn't.
Okay,
she
don't
didn't.
fall apart. Let's have it in clear, simple language.
Huh?
In words of small syllables.
She's dead. She killed herself.
No question about it now. She's good and dead. What were you doing here anyway, Stratton?
I thought I heard footsteps, so I came up. You see, we'd had a little argument last night. I just wanted to tell her I was sorry.
What kind of an argument?
The kind 2 people have when they love each other. No reason for it, but I don't know, when you want to make up for it, suddenly it's just too late.
All right, Stratton. We'll talk about that sometime later on.
But why the fake suicide this afternoon? And then to come back here tonight and go through the whole thing for keeps.
Hey, this might mean something, Lieutenant.
What's that?
There's a smear of blood on the light switch over there.
Oh, I must have done that. You see, it was dark, and fumbling for the light, I must have touched the desk first. Didn't even notice it, because as soon as I saw
This gun on the desk, the one Miss Palmer used, have you ever noticed it around here before?
Yeah. I told Marcia she was a fool to keep it around, but she had a license for it, and she felt she was safer with it.
Any reason why she should write me a letter like this? Go on, Stratton. Take a good look at it.
It's Marcia's handwriting, all right. I'm sure of that. I can't understand what she could have meant.
Didn't you yourself say she seemed to be afraid of something?
I said she looked as though she did, and she really did, but I still don't know what it could have been.
Okay, Valentine, I know there might be a lot more to this, but for the time being, I've got to accept the obvious.
Obvious, he says.
Miss Palmer wrote you a letter threatening suicide. She went through with it. That's all we've got to work on for the time being. Oh, Stratton.
Yes, Lieutenant.
Be at headquarters at 10 in the morning. We want to get your story down straight.
That happens to be a very convenient hour for me, Lieutenant. You see, I'm unemployed.
Oh, one more thing, Stratton.
Yeah.
Marcia was a model. Where did she work?
Oh, she modeled clothes for a big firm downtown called the Mode Moderne.
Uh-huh. Which brings me to you, Brooksy.
Huh? I fail to see the connection.
We'll talk about it later. But you also have a date tomorrow morning at 10.
Yes, Miss Brooks. I'm Miss Gavin, the head model here.
Well, I know you're going to think I'm just perfectly mercenary.
Aren't we all?
I mean, to be here at the Mode Moderne the first thing in the morning after reading about what happened to that poor Marcia Palmer. Wasn't it perfectly awful?
Yes. It was quite a shock to all of us here.
Well, I thought there might be an opening for me here. After all, I'm a perfect 12, and I've had loads of experience modeling. You can check with Mr. Gillespie at High Style Incorporated or Mr. Farbstein at the...
Well, even if Mr. Wyatt were here, he's the head of the firm, you know, I doubt if this would be the right time to talk about taking Marcia's place. I think he was more upset than any of us about what happened.
Well, like I said, wasn't it perfectly awful? The paper said there was a note. She was afraid of something.
That I don't believe, Miss Brooks.
You don't?
Marcia and I were quite close. She wasn't afraid of anything. She was always happy and cheerful, especially yesterday when we had lunch together.
You don't say.
I even asked her what there was to be so happy about. Oh, she said it was a joke, and she'd tell me about it some other time.
A joke, huh? Isn't that just perfectly...
I know. Awful. Now, if you'd like to leave your name...
Well, I would like to talk to Mr. Wyatt.
I'm afraid you can't. He won't be in at all today. He's being honored at a luncheon at the Commodore, his club.
How perfectly exciting.
He even has a picture in the paper.
Oh?
Here.
Oh, my, he looks so friendly and chubby.
Marcia and I called Mr. Wyatt Cupid. Oh, but never to his face, if you know what I mean. Shall I tell him that you'll get in touch with him, Miss Brooks?
Oh, but definitely.
Well, your little interview at Mode Moderne, Angel, only makes this case screwier than ever.
Well, as soon as I heard about Mr. Wyatt and saw his angelic countenance in the paper, I thought he might fit in somewhere.
Yeah, a short, chubby little man hired our actress friend to play scrubwoman. Oh, he fits in all right, but not with the facts.
What do you mean, George?
Just a minute, Brooksy. Let's go and see Riley, see what he's got out of Stratton.
Oh, Valentine, I've been expecting you.
Good morning, Lieutenant.
Oh, yeah, Lieutenant.
Oh, so. Well, here's the way it stacks up this morning. The medical examiner goes along with the suicide theory. Gun, fingerprints, everything. Stratton here tells a straight story.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
So that's about it for now, Valentine.
Just one thing's been puzzling me.
Yeah?
Stratton, apartment 4A where Marcia lived has exactly the same layout as yours in 3A, hasn't it?
I suppose so. You know, these apartment houses, not much imagination.
But you said you fumbled for the light switch and got blood on it because you were over at the desk first.
That's exactly what you said, Stratton.
Well, I suppose so. I don't remember.
3 of us were there when you said it.
Now, why did you have to fumble for the light switch? It's exactly in the same place in Marcia's apartment as in yours, right next to the door.
Well, maybe I didn't explain myself just right.
You were planning Marcia's body at the desk where it was, and the gun, too.
No,
That
you're wrong.
you wanted to do in darkness. Then you put on the light and went running downstairs. That's why
Hold
you...
it, Valentine. Hold it. I'll take it from here.
Look, Lieutenant, you got to listen to me.
That smear of blood on the light switch put you square on the spot, fella. Now, the less you say now without a lawyer, the better. I'm holding you on suspicion of murder.
Well, you'll have to pardon us. Brooksy and I have a luncheon date at the Commodore.
Huh? Have we? Oh, yes.
Oh, wait a minute, Valentine. I want to talk to you
Maybe
about...
you're happy about this way this case washed out, Lieutenant, but I'm not. Go on, keep talking, Mr. Wyatt.
I don't know what to say. I should be inside in the ballroom, Mr. Valentine, talking to the fellows.
How can you even think of your silly club now, after everything that's happened?
All in all, it was a pretty elaborate job. Even hiring a character actress to build suspense.
Yes, I tried to think of everything.
You did?
Oh, it was a clever stunt, all right, getting Miss Palmer to write that letter to me. It amounted to a suicide.
I knew I couldn't afford to overlook a thing. I'm sorry. Sorry I ever got involved in the whole mess.
Okay, Mr. Wyatt, don't take it so hard. You better get back to your luncheon. And, oh, yeah, go easy on the cream chicken.
George, I'm still reeling.
Yeah, I can see what you mean, all right.
Oh, I know children can be children. But a grown man like Mr. Wyatt...
Oh, not a mere man, Angel. The new president of the Liars Club, being honored at the Commodore, no less.
Fantastic.
You see, Brooksy, he had to have the tallest story ever heard for this inaugural. And he probably would have had.
I'll say.
A suicide that wasn't a suicide. A missing body and all the trimmings. He knows all the names, facts, and answers. But still, there he was, free and unfettered to address all his fellow liars. Boy, can you top that one?
Not at the moment. But maybe Marcia wouldn't have been murdered at all if Mr. Wyatt hadn't dreamed up that gag.
No, Brooksy, we can be pretty sure she would have. You read Glenn Stratton's confession. He was insanely jealous. He was just waiting for the right opportunity.
Thinking back, it makes me shudder, George. To fool us, Marcia went down to Stratton's apartment, probably laughing at the joke. Then he killed her and brought her back upstairs.
Yeah. Wyatt must have cooked up the deal with his favorite model down at Stratton's apartment. That's why Wyatt told the phony scrub woman it was 3A.
Darling, Riley's never going to forgive you for leaving him up in the air, not knowing whether he had the murderer or not.
Yeah, but I had to talk to my client, Brooksy.
Client?
Well, can you think of anybody else in the case I could pin for a fee? Except the biggest liar in the world?
George, I have an idea. Let's present him with a bill that will make even Mr. Wyatt scream, "It's a lie!"
It's often the little things that make your day a good one or a rough one. The simple business of starting your car, for example. If it's obstinate and gives you a bad time when you want to get going, it can add up to a lot of irritation. For fast starts every time and wherever you're driving, just try Chevron Supreme gasoline in your car. This premium quality gasoline is climate-tailored, specially adapted to each different climate and altitude zone in the West. Day or night, summer or winter, you can depend upon it for fast starts. And that's a saving, too, of the power in your battery. What's more, Chevron Supreme gives your car smooth acceleration and extra power for rugged hills. Get a tank full tomorrow at any standard station or independent Chevron gas station where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. Next week, when you tune our way for another adventure of George Valentine, you'll hear...
Hey, look, Barney, what was the idea of dragging me into this doorway when that car came up?
Boy, Mr. Valentine, did you see him turn around and beat it when he started getting to work?
What works? What happened?
Oh, we figured you might be followed when you left the Swede, so the Bearcats were ready on the roof with ash cans, bricks, cans of garbage, stuff like that. Boy, they let them have it.
I suppose I should say thanks.
Nothing to it. Say, what'd you find out about Danny?
Nothing much, kid. Except that there are at least two characters who do anything to keep me from finding out.
Well, don't you worry. They won't. Not with the Bearcats on the job.
Tonight's adventure, George Valentine, has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and Standard stations throughout the West. Let George Do It stars Robert Bailey as George with Frances Robinson as Claire. Wally Mayer appears as Lieutenant Riley. Tonight's story was written by David Victor and Herbert Little, Jr. and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Jacqueline DeWitt as Gloria, Tony Barrett as Glenn Stratton, Gwen Delano as the scrub woman, Ralph Moody as the janitor, and Harry Lang as Max. The music is composed and conducted by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Another solid episode in the books for George and Brooksy. Got a comment off of Podcast Alley. My wife and I have been enjoying your detective podcast each night. She's not too thrilled about the Let George Do It intro where he offers to spank the wives that need it, but what the heck, keep up the good work. I also enjoyed your podcast of the bed. Oh yes, the spanking. A reminder of a style of humor that was acceptable back then, but isn't today for reasons we pretty much understand. Of course, as Let George Do It became more serious, that reference disappeared along with the dog walking. Glad you enjoyed the bad. I haven't gotten as much feedback on that one as I did Sherlock Holmes and the Secret Weapon. Well, we begin with an email from Wine Boss. What happened to the old winery Petri Wines? We hear on the breaks during Sherlock Holmes. Are they still in business or do they operate under another name? Thanks. We listen at work and love the podcast. Keep up the great work. I did some research and I couldn't find out for sure. I'll invite anyone who's a wine history expert to share. What I could find on Petri is that in the 1950s it actually stopped manufacturing and growing wine. It sold its vineyards to a co-op of growers and just handled the marketing and branding of the side of the wine. I was also able to find that Petri did continue to have wine available until at least the mid-1980s. I came up with some old newspapers with Petri wine advertised specials. But the brand does seem to have disappeared. I found a Petri brandy, but that was from the state of Minnesota, not from San Francisco. The whys and whats of what happened I'm not privy to, which is somewhat surprising because you would think a merger or a wine label like that going under would be some news that you would pick up in like a Google News or New York Times search, but no luck. So I'm sure we'll learn more from our very well-informed listeners, but great question. Hopefully we get more answers. All right, well, before we do get started on today's show, I do want to remind you about Netflix. Netflix really is the home for Holmes. It's a place where you can be able to explore the wide variety of filmography of Sherlock Holmes with both instant watch and DVDs. You can watch the adventures of Sherlock Holmes with Rathbone and Bruce. You can enjoy the Jeremy Britt series, and you can also be able to get some of the more recent films. Just go to netflix.greatdetectives.net or go to greatdetectives.net. Click on the Netflix banner. Well, let's go ahead and we're going to get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes, and this one is called The Out-of-Date Murder. And we'll listen and then we'll come back.
This episode from the life of Sherlock Holmes will be transmitted to our men and women overseas by shortwave and through the worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petri family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invite you to listen to Dr. Watson tell us another exciting story about his old friend, that master detective, Sherlock Holmes. And we'd also like to tell you something you really ought to know. The fact that the one sure way to make good food taste better is to try that good food together with a glass of good Petri wine. Did you ever try Petri wine with dinner? No kidding, that's one bandwagon you sure want to hop on. Take, for instance, a deep red, hearty Petri California Burgundy. Wait till you taste that Petri Burgundy with, let's say, a delicious old-fashioned beef stew. Or maybe try a glass with spaghetti. I'm telling you, when you add the luscious flavor of that Petri Burgundy to the flavor of your favorite foods, you're really living. You're finding out for the first time what good eating really means, on the level. So better keep a bottle of that Petri Burgundy right on the dining room table. And never forget, the best friend a good meal ever had is a glass of Petri wine. And now for our weekly visit with the good Dr. Watson. May I come in, Doctor?
No, Mr. Bartell. You know me better than that. Of course you can come in. I'm expecting you. I always look forward to these Monday evenings together, you know.
Me too, Doctor. In fact, I always say this is the one doctor's appointment that never scares me.
Oh, that's very nice of you, my boy. Go up your chair and make yourself comfortable.
Thanks. And what prescription do you have in mind for us tonight, Doctor?
Well, now, let me see. Take one measure of subterranean peril, one of aristocratic lady in distress, a sprinkling of assorted villains, a corpse or two, and a little more than a dash of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. Shake the mixture well, and you have the case of the out-of-date murder.
Well, how did the adventure begin, Doctor?
Exactly enough. It was in September of 1900. I remember that Holmes and I went to Eastbourne for a much-needed rest. First couple of days we spent in soothing idleness. On the morning of the third day, Holmes, a dash of colour back in his cheek and a hint of the old sparkle in his eye, suggested that we should go and call on his good friend Evan Whitnell, curator of a nearby museum. And so, just after lunch on that September day, found the two of us talking to Professor Evan Whitnell in his private office at the museum. It only seems yesterday. Holmes...
Professor Whitnell, your recent discoveries in this part of England have made you world famous instead of just nationally famous. My congratulations.
Professor, I do wish you'd tell me about your discoveries.
Well, with pleasure, Dr. Watson. Less than 2 months ago, I was excavating on the downlands in this neighborhood when I was fortunate enough to discover a number of underground caves. Caves saturated with a heavy deposit of lime that gave clear evidence of having the property of rapidly mummifying any flesh, human or animal, deposited in them.
Good gracious me, that's interesting. And what treasures have you unearthed, Professor?
Well, a number of mummified specimens of animals clearly belonging to bygone eras. My prize specimen is the body of a large wolfhound. The inscription on its collar identified the animal as having belonged to some local squire in the year 1748.
Amazing. I didn't know that limestone had such qualities of preservation.
Come in. Yes, Alan? What is it?
Lady Clavering, Professor. She asked me to tell you that she was in the museum.
Oh, yes, sir. Show her up here, will you, Alan?
Very good, sir.
Yes, I'm most anxious for you both to meet her. And she, in turn, is even more anxious to meet you. Now, I dined with her last night, and when I told her that you were coming today, she insisted on meeting you.
Oh, Whitnell, you scoundrel. There's a twinkle in your eye. I suspect that Lady Clavering is here to consult me in my professional capacity, and that you engineered the meeting.
Well, perhaps I might have dropped a hint.
No, I warn you, Professor, Holmes can't become involved with another case. He's completely run down.
Well, don't worry, Doctor. All that Lady Clavering requires is a little advice.
Advice? Oh, that's a different matter altogether.
Yes, I knew you wouldn't mind, Holmes. Helena, my dear, there you are. Come along in. Thank you, Alan. Allow me to introduce Lady Clavering, Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson.
How do you do that?
How are you, gentlemen?
Now, here you are, my dear. Sit down here. I may as well tell you, Helena, that our little plot has already been discovered.
Oh, dear. And I was just getting ready to exert all my feminine wiles in an attempt to persuade you to help me, Mr. Holmes.
Oh, I'm certain that he found you utterly irresistible, my dear Lady Clavering.
You flatter me, Doctor.
No, I mean it.
The professor tells me that you're in need of a little advice, Lady Clavering.
Yes, Mr. Holmes. I'll ask my question simply. 5 years ago, my husband, Sir George Clavering, left me.
Left you? Gracious me, how stupid of him.
I haven't seen or heard tell of him since. I now wish to remarry. But of course I couldn't do that without having my husband declared legally dead.
My dear Lady Clavering, I can't help feeling that a lawyer is the proper man to consult, not a detective.
Perhaps you're suggesting that there was foul play in connection with your husband's disappearance.
Oh, no, Dr. Watson. The Claverings are a strange family, self-willed and headstrong. George and I were not happy together. I think he disappeared deliberately.
You reported his disappearance to the police, of course.
Oh, yes, Mr. Holmes. But they've never been able to trace him.
This kind of thing has happened in the family before, Holmes. Tell them about Sir Nigel, Helena.
He was one of my husband's ancestors. He walked out one day in 1777 and was never seen again.
Extraordinary family, always disappearing.
George knew of the legend. He often threatened to do the same thing himself.
But your problem, Lady Clavering, is not that of your husband's fate, but rather of your own freedom.
Yes, Mr. Holmes.
Well, I'm afraid my advice can be of little consolation to you. The law has specified a number of years that must elapse before anyone disappearing can be declared legally dead. I would suggest that you possess your soul in patience until that period has elapsed.
Oh, dear. And I was hoping you'd be able to think of some terribly clever way of getting round the law, Mr. Holmes.
Lady Clavering, sometimes perhaps my methods may be unorthodox, but I assure you that getting around the law, as you put it, is a procedure I do not indulge in.
Oh, dear me, now I've offended you, Mr. Holmes, and it's the last thing on earth I meant to do, I assure you.
My friend's a little touchy about matters concerning his professional honor, you know, Lady Clavering.
Oh, nonsense, my dear Watson. I'm not touchy and I'm not offended. And now, may I suggest we all examine the professor's latest treasures, and after that, perhaps he'll take us for a stroll on the downs. I'm most anxious to examine those lime pits of his.
The lime pits are about a mile from here. It's a nice walk across the cliff tops.
Well, I'm sorry Lady Clavering didn't want to come with us. A charming woman, even although she did rub you up the wrong way.
A beautiful woman, Watson, but I must confess her charm eludes me. Her lack of concern about her husband's fate seemed completely unnatural.
Yeah, not if you'd known her husband, Sir George Clavering. He was a tyrant and a bully, both in his home life and in the village.
Hello? Who's this coming towards us?
It's Timmy. Daft Timmy, they call him in these parts. He isn't quite right in the head, poor fellow, but he's perfectly harmless. Has two passions in life, birds and bonfires. Hello, Timmy.
I've got something beautiful to show you. Oh, it's so beautiful.
Well, what is it, Timmy?
Look, it's in my cap. See? Oh, isn't it lovely?
Robin's egg.
I found it when I was bird nesting. Did you ever see such a blue egg?
It's a beauty, Timmy. Where did you find it, my boy?
Down by the lime pits. Oh, I'm going to build a lovely fire on the downs tonight. I'll let you come and watch it if you give me a shilling.
Now, you be careful, Timmy, or you'll be in trouble again.
Timmy doesn't get in trouble anymore now. Not since he had Sir George carried away.
Sir George Clavering used to whip Timmy when he found him on the land.
Timmy, tell me, how did you have Sir George, as you put it, carried away?
I told my birds about him. I told them how he used to beat poor Timmy, and they said they'd carry him off and drop him over the cliffs. and that's what they did, because he never came back again.
Oh, Lord, here comes Harry, Sir George's brother. Now there'll be trouble. Timmy, you'd better run.
Oh, no, Timmy can't run. He'll break his pretty blue egg.
Timmy, get off my land. If I catch you here again, I'll take my riding crop to you.
Timmy hasn't done anything.
Go on, be off with you, do you hear?
I'll tell my birds about you. That's what I'll do. Oh, don't forget my bonfire.
Infernal scoundrel. Hello, Whitnell. Hello, Harry. Have you met Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson?
Oh, Sherlock Holmes, the professional nosy Parker, eh? Yes, Helena was just telling me about you. I'm very angry with her for talking to you about my brother. Private affair, and I intend it should remain one. You understand, Holmes?
Oh, upon my soul.
The devil with your brother, sir. And with you. I'd advise you to remember that you're not addressing a half-witted villager who can't defend himself.
If you know what's good for you, you'll do what I say.
Impertinent brute. He spoke to you as if you were a stable boy, Holmes.
Oh, really? He was quite refreshing. I'm reminded of an apposite quotation of my young friend James Elroy Flecker. Thine impudence hath a monstrous beauty, likened to the hindquarters of an elephant.
Yeah, he's almost as much disliked as his brother before him.
Tell me, does he succeed to the title when his brother is declared legally dead?
Oh, yes, and what's more, he's Helena's unofficial fiancé, worse luck.
I see. Personally, I'm beginning to get a trifle bored with the affairs of the Clavering family. Let's go on to the lime cake, shall we?
These caves are amazing. We must be 50 feet below the level of the ground, aren't we, Whitnell?
Well, more than that, I should say.
Rock formation is most unusual, a series of caves connected by a veritable honeycomb of tunneling.
Yes. I think I'll light the lantern now. It's getting darker in here, and I haven't explored this particular cave before. Since I've had a wall cave in on me a couple of times, so you'd better watch where you're walking. There. Now we can see better. Let's go deeper, shall we? But do watch your step.
It's eerie down here, isn't it?
Hello. Oh, what's this in the crevice here?
Looks like a mummified bird of some kind.
It is a beautiful specimen.
Judging by its markings, a black streak here and bars of white metal, I'd say it was a peregrine.
That's exactly what it is, a falcon. Dating back a couple of 100 years, I should say. And in a perfect state of preservation. Oh, this is a treasure. Come on, let's explore deeper.
There's be another cave over here. If you hold the lantern up a little, I'll... Oh, I say. Good Lordy. The whole wall collapsed.
Watson, you're not hurt, are you?
No, Holmes. I'm all right.
Why, you've unearthed another cave, Dr. Watson. Let's go in. I think we can just manage to crawl through.
Great God, I don't believe my eyes.
Magnificent. Whitnall, this is a treasure indeed. A perfectly preserved body dressed in 18th century costume, powdered wig and all.
Yes, and there's no mistaking who it is. Look at that typical deep profile. It's a Clavering, and it isn't hard to identify which one.
You mean the one that Lady Helena told us about this afternoon?
Exactly. Without doubt, this is the body of Sir Nigel Clavering, who disappeared in 1777. Let's search his pockets. We might find some identification. Yes, here's a snuff box of the period, and some coins.
Yes, the inscription of George III is still visible on them. Hello, here's his diary. This is unbelievable. What are you up to, Holmes?
We're examining the body, Watson. This man was murdered.
Murdered?
With this wound just above the heart. Obviously inflicted with a sharp instrument, probably a dagger. This is interesting. An entirely new experience for me. The opportunity of solving an unsuspected murder committed well over 100 years ago. Glance through that diary, Watson, will you, old chap? Let's see if the devil suspected his fate.
Well, hard to read. All the S's look like F's.
Peculiarity of the 18th century writing.
They are saying, I suppose it means saying, they are saying in the coffee houses that my brother Harry hath been coveting my wife.
But this is amazing, Holmes. See how history repeats itself. It's an exact parallel of the situation existing today. Harry is coveting his brother's wife, Helena, and Sir George has not been seen for 5 years.
What an extraordinary coincidence.
If it were one. As it is, it's one of the most ingenious frauds I've ever seen. The clothing appears authentic, so do the coins, the faded ink, the paper of the diary, and due to the peculiar mummification of the body, it would be almost impossible to say how long it's been here. Nevertheless, I'm convinced that this is a recent corpse, and undoubtedly that of Sir George Clavering.
Well, what makes you so sure, Holmes?
Writing in the diary. 18th century used an S that looked like an F, it is true, but never at the end of a word. You will recall, Watson, that you were reading H-A-F, have, for H-A-S, has.
That's perfectly true, I was.
Well, that would be incorrect and genuine 18th century writing. Now, obviously, this is an extremely clever attempt to disguise the comparatively recent murder of Sir George Clavering.
It's incredible, Holmes. Yeah, I believe you're right.
I'm sure of it.
Well, what are you going to do about it?
You and I, old chap, will mount guard over the body. You, my dear Whitnall, if you don't mind, will be good enough to go and fetch the police.
Holmes.
Yes, old chap?
What do you suppose is keeping the police? Whitnall must have gone over an hour, and the lantern with him. Here we are, crouching in the dark in a smelly cave, 50 feet under the cliffs, with a mummified corpse.
Very true, Watson, but I don't... Uh-huh. Here comes the lantern.
It must be Whitnall and the police. Whitnall!
That you, Whitnall?
That lantern's blinding me. Is that you, Whitnall? Answer, can't you? Get out, Watson!
Watson's story will continue in just a second. And I'm going to take that second to ask you what you think of when I say good food. When you say good food to me, I can see myself really going down on a piece of fried chicken, but really fried. You know, crisp and sort of a light brown. And when I see that chicken, I sure want to see some Petri California Sauterne. Because, believe me, Petri Sauterne is a white wine that's the wine for chicken. That Petri Sauterne has a delicate kind of flavor. Delicate like its pale gold color. But what a flavor, and what a wine. If you want a swell white wine, you certainly want Petri Sauterne. Try it and see. And now, back to Dr. Watson and tonight's story, The Case of the Out-of-Date Murder. Well, Doctor, you certainly had me on the edge of my chair during the first part of the story.
Oh, I'm glad of that, my boy.
Say, what happened when Sherlock Holmes yelled out at you in the cave?
I was struck from behind with a spade and knocked out. A second later, the same thing happened to Holmes. You see, we were blinded by the lantern and couldn't protect ourselves. When we came to, we found we were at the bottom of a pit. The walls were narrow and vertical, and I saw no earthly way of our getting out of the trap. But as usual, Holmes had something up his sleeve. Oh, my head's throbbing.
Never mind that for the moment, old chap. Get the coat off in your shirt.
Come
on, off with it, old boy. Come on, off with it. I've already removed mine and tied them together.
Oh, what for?
Oh, dear me, that blow on your head must have been unusually severe. I'm trying to make a kind of rope, Watson, a rope to get us out of here.
Oh, what's the good of a rope unless there's someone on the ledge above us to haul us out? I still think you're performing the Indian rope trick.
My dear Watson, this is no time for your rather heavy-handed humor.
Why do you keep whistling like that? You've been doing it for the past 20 minutes.
I'm whistling for help.
Well, why not shout?
Whistle carries further.
Oh, dear. Who's going to hear that?
That Timmy, I hope. Remember, he was having a bonfire on the cliff-top tonight. My whistle is that of a nightingale, a song unheard in Sussex this time of the year. If it does answer it, I'm sure it'll bring him down here.
Oh, well, I hope you're right. Seems to me that Whitnell and the police will never find us here. We shall mummify, just as the filthy murderer intended us to.
Courage, Watson.
It's worked! It's Timmy! Cutting a burning log. Go down here, Timmy!
Nightingale, pretty birdie, what are you doing down there?
Timmy! I've tied these clothes together to make a rope. I'm going to throw them up. You ready? Catch!
Good. He's caught it.
Now, Timmy, lower it to it.
Oh, I shouldn't do this. They'll whip me.
No. Nobody will whip you, Timmy. And we both want to give you a shilling to come up and see your bonfire.
Oh, that's different. 2 shiny shillings. I'll lower the rope.
Here it comes. That's it.
All right, now then. You first. All right, Timmy, pull away.
Here it goes.
Splendid.
I'm up, Holmes. Now lower it for you.
All right. I've got it. Look out now. Here I come.
Thank goodness we got out of that place all right.
I don't see the nightingale. Oh, you must have him inside your coat. Well, never mind. We'll all go up to my bonfire and get warm. It's such a pretty bonfire. Did you ever see a finer bonfire?
Never, Timmy. It's lovely.
It's the most comforting sight I've seen for the last couple of hours.
Oh, just one thing's bad, though. Somebody tried to burn a book in my lovely fire. It must have been when I was off getting more wood. I found it when I came back, and I pulled it out of the fire and stamped on it. See, here it is.
Let's have a look. Hello, it's the diary that we found on the body in the lime pits.
Precisely, Watson. Now I begin to see daylight.
People shouldn't burn books. Books are nice. Books are like birds and bonfires. Well, they're nice to be near. Oh, your nightingale must be cold. I'll get some more twigs burned.
Well, now that fellow's gone away for a moment, I can see why we were attacked tonight. The murderer knew that we were going to the caves. He was afraid that his devilish plot wouldn't stand up under your scrutiny, So he watched us. When we discovered the body and sent Whitnell off for the police, he knew that he'd got to get rid of us.
And who do you think that somebody is, old fellow?
Oh, that's easy. There's only one person strong enough to have knocked us both out and shifted our bodies. The dead Sir George's brother, Harry Clavering.
I think not, old fellow. Didn't you observe as we entered the caves that pickaxes and wheelbarrows were much in evidence?
Yes, that's right. They were, of course.
Strength was not required under the circumstances. We were extremely vulnerable in the darkness. Any man with a modicum of cunning could have disposed of us, or any woman, for that.
Good Lord, you're not suggesting that...
Watson! Oh, Whitnell! Why, thank heaven you're safe. I've had the police with me for the last hour, but we couldn't find you. You went where I left you.
True. Whitnell, I want you and the police to take me to Lady Clavering's house at once. After that, I wish to lodge information and make a charge of assault and possibly a charge of murder. And that, Lady Clavering, is the story of how you found your husband's body.
Horrible, Mr. Holmes. Horrible.
But who in thunder could have planned such a devilish plot? Why did the murderer attack you and Watson?
There, my dear Whitnell, you have the key to the murderer's identity. The man who so cunningly conceived and executed the murder of Sir George could never have bungled the job of disposing of Watson or myself unless he had meant to bungle it.
You mean he didn't mean to kill us?
Exactly. He merely wished us out of the way while the incriminating evidence was removed.
You mean the diary?
Of course I do. You will recall we found it partially burnt in Timmy's bonfire.
That was Timmy who...
No, my dear fellow. Surely it's obvious. One person and only one knew that the diary was the key to the murderer's identity. The man who was present when we discovered it and detected the fraud.
Great Scott, Professor Whitnell.
Whitnell, you murdered my brother.
Evan, you... Oh, no.
I did it because I love you, Helena. All these years has been nothing in my life that meant anything but you.
How could you?
I thought that if George were out of the way, I could make you care for me. And when I realized that you loved Harry, I was mad with jealousy. And so I planned to conceal George's body forever. It was a clever plan. You said so yourself, Holmes. If it hadn't been for you, it would have worked.
Yes, it was diabolically clever, Whitnell, but I'm afraid that no amount of cleverness now can prevent you from paying for your crime. Sir George, I suggest that you instruct the police to come in. Our work is done.
Holmes, look there on the point. Timmy's bonfire is still burning away.
Yes. Tim is a simple fellow with simple tastes.
Why are you so gloomy? You solved the case brilliantly.
My dear fellow, my faith in human nature has been sadly shaken. Oh, that. Evan Whitnell was a good friend and old one. Hard to be instrumental in sending him to the gallows.
Well, he richly deserved it.
Yes, I know he did. That's quite true, but it's depressing just the same. Come on. Let's continue our walk home across the downs.
That's Harry offering you a fee. Did you take it?
No, I didn't, but I did accept his offer of an acre of land on the downs over there near the Abbey ruins. You can see them silhouetted against the sky.
An acre of land? What on earth would you do with that?
Well, when I retire, and I shall retire soon, I've often thought of bee farming. This would be a heavenly spot for such a venture.
Well, I can't imagine you as a beekeeper.
Oh, why not? After a life spent unraveling the tangled affairs of human beings, it would be soothing in the twilight of one's days to study the exact and predictable behavior of bees. Singing masons, building roofs of gold. Oh, well. One day, perhaps. One day.
Well, Doctor, that was a swell story. You know, I'm sure glad we get together like this once a week.
Oh, thank you very much. Next week, why not come over a little earlier for dinner?
Oh, no, I wouldn't think of having you go through all that trouble.
Oh, well, of course, if you feel that way.
Well, say, aren't you going to coax me?
Well, to tell you the truth, I knew I wouldn't have to coax you. Mr. Bartell, I was just going to show you the 2 thick steaks that I've got frozen in my refrigerator.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I'll also put aside a bottle of Petri Burgundy.
Well, in which case, I'll bring along a very hearty appetite. If you pick the steak, I know it's good, and when it's Petri wine, you know that's got to be good, too. Because the Petri family has been making fine wine for generations. They've owned and operated the Petri business ever since its inception, way back in the 1800s. During all that time, they've sure learned plenty about the fine art of turning luscious grapes into clear, fragrant, delicious wine. And they've been able to take this experience and hand it on down from father to son, from father to son. That's why, when you want wine for any occasion, you can't go wrong with a Petri wine. Because Petri took time to bring you good wine. Now, Dr. Watson, what story do you have lined up for us next week?
Well, now, let me see. Next week, Mr. Bartell, I'm going to tell you an adventure that occurred to Holmes and me in the shadowy depths of the Limehouse district in London. It's a strange tale of death and terror. I call the story The Eyes of Mr. Layton.
Well, Doctor, we'll be sure not to miss it. And meanwhile, don't you forget you promised to contribute to the National War Fund.
National War Fund? Of course, Mr. Bartell. It's a must.
The money you give to your war fund not only helps the men and women in our armed forces, and it not only helps our allies, but that money goes to work right in your own community, helping make possible many relief and welfare agencies in your own hometown. So let's all be generous in victory. Give to your community war fund. Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure is written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and is based on an incident in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story, The Adventure of Wisteria Lodge. Mr. Rathbone appears through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures, where they are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. The Petri Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station.
Oh, the Petri family took the time to bring you such good wine. So when you eat and when you cook, remember Petri wine.
To make good food taste better, remember...
Petri wine.
This is Harry Bartell saying goodnight for the Petri family. Sherlock Holmes comes to you from our Hollywood studios. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. A good, exciting case for Holmes. You do kind of see how even Sherlock Holmes productions were being influenced by the hard-boiled detective. Rathbone at the end was as close to a world-weary shamus as you'll see a Sherlock Holmes actor be. All right, well, we have more email, this one from Otto. I've been listening to many of your podcasts for several weeks now and become rather delighted with your Sherlock Holmes episode. I recently found a copy of The Iron Box from another podcast. I would suggest trying to find this one because it not only has become one of my favorite episodes, but has an introduction by a woman who was part of the production of the radio shows. Also, if you see fit to expand your podcast number from 5 to 7, look at Rogue's Gallery and The Adventures of the Falcon. Both are much like Sherlock Holmes. Otto, first of all, regarding the Iron Box, I have access to it, and unless there's some problem with the recording, we'll be playing that in about 3 months. I definitely want to do both the Falcon and Rogue's Gallery. However, I don't think I'll be expanding to 7 shows a week. New shows will get added in through attrition. With my other podcasts, we're doing about 8 episodes a week already. Plus, I'd like to be able to have some free days in the schedule for me to be able to add the occasional bonus episode and video. I will admit that I've toyed with the idea of starting to do a Saturday show once Dragnet is over and have the Saturday show be more of a police detective show like The Lineup. But that's still in the just thinking about it stage because I've got nearly 3 years left on Dragnet. Finally, an email from Denise. I just listened to an older episode of Johnny Dollar and heard that your picture can be found. I went to greatdetectives.net and didn't see one. Can you tell me where to find it? Denise, thanks for the email. If you look at the top of the page, there are several tabs, and it's actually at the bottom of the About page at greatdetectives.net. Well, we are nearing the end of Charles Russell's run on yours truly, Johnny Dollar. And I came across something in some of my recreational listening that was pretty interesting. It was actually an episode of Philip Marlowe that listed Charles Russell as one of the actors on the show. I have no idea which part Russell played because none of the voices sounded like the voice that I'd heard Russell using on Johnny Dollar or in the movie Inner Sanctum. However, they said he was in there, so I'm going to go ahead and provide this unhosted episode as an extra for those of you who have got the subscription to the premium site. or who have the iPhone app, you'll be able to go ahead and take a listen to the Philip Marlowe episode, The Hairpin Turn, which really is so far the best episode of Philip Marlowe I've listened to. And given that Marlowe was just one of the top detective shows, that says a lot. All right, well, we're going to get into today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, the Circus Animal Show, in just a second. Before we do, I want to remind you about Johnny Dollar Air. With Johnny Dollar Air, whether you've got an action-packed expense account or not, you can be able to get the best deals wherever you happen to fly. Use Priceline's Name Your Own Price system, or search from published fares for hotels, airline tickets, rental cars, cruises, and even more. Remember, JohnnyDollarAir.com. All right, well, let's get into today's episode of Johnny Dollar, the Circus Animal Show. We'll listen, and then we'll come back.
They say big game hunting is a sport only for the wealthy. Well, it didn't cost me much, except almost my life.
This is another in the adventures of America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator, Johnny Dollar. At Insurance Investigation, Johnny Dollar is only an expert. At making out his expense account, he's an absolute genius.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Britannia Underwriters Association, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during my investigation of the unscheduled performances in Maximilian Sandro's Animal Show. Or, all they needed was a clown, and then I showed up. Or, I once thought I'd run away with a circus. This one I wanted to run away from. Expense account, item 1. $70.21, train and cab fare from Hartford to a vacant lot just outside Brunswick, Georgia. The winter quarters of Maximilian Sandro's Animal Show. The first animal to show was an elephant.
Bravo! Bravo!
Hey, mister, where can I find Maximilian Sandro?
Come on.
Hey, mister, I want to ask you a question.
Please, you're not so loud. You upset the Blanca. I'm going to try to teach you an aria for next season.
An aria? Well, that should set opera back 10 years.
Sweet, Blanca, sweet. That's the only musical elephant in the world, the Pachyderma chanteuse.
Well, look, I'll stop interrupting rehearsal if you'll tell me where I can find your boss, Maximilian Sandro.
My boss?
Yeah.
It is I. I am Maximilian Sandro.
Oh, well, good. I'm Johnny Dollar from the insurance company.
Oh, let's make it something else. Blanca, you rest. I'm going to come back when I'm through with Mr. Dollars.
Well, as I understand it, Mr. Sandro.
Oh, that's a poor Blanca. She don't like to see me go. You know, she's like a puppy to me. But this is the new black leopard. That's the beginning of all of my trouble. I'm going to show you to her. Someone is trying to steal her. And that's what I don't want, Mr. Dollars.
Well, since Britannia Underwriters insured her for $20,000, that is what they don't want, too.
Shit, it cost me too much to get her from Africa. To lose her, that would ruin my financials. Everything would go. Ah, these are my monkeys.
Yeah. Hi. Look, Mr. Sandro, how does anybody go about stealing a neat little package like a black leopard? And why?
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because she's a very special leopard. She's a very big, very shiny. I'm going to name her Ashanti. She's going to be my prize attraction. There's a lot of animal shows would like to have her.
Oh, you suspect your competition?
Oh, see.
Well, when was the attempt made?
One night last week, they make with the truck. They tried to pull her cage away, and we saved her just in time. Oh, see, it's my finches, the parakeets, and the toucan, and this is my crow.
Yeah. Very nice. Colorful. Did you try and trace the truck?
Man, no, it's nowhere to trace. They went away, whoosh, no lights. And it's something else that's not right at all.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
I'm going to make a big plan. I'm going to get all the money I can put a hands on to buy her from this man at Tex Randall. And then now he say the money that was enough before is not enough now. He think he cheat me, this Randall.
Well, I'd like to help you with that, too, Mr. Sandro, but I'm afraid that's your problem. My job is to see that your leopard isn't stolen.
I see, I know. You get to pay for your job, but you do it, and that's... Oh, no. And there is the shot. There is my leopard.
I guess somewhere, way down in the taproots of my family tree, there probably was an ancestor with a low forehead, bearskin overalls, and a club who went into an unpleasant double-take when he found himself face-to-face with a leopard. I know the feeling I had when I saw Shanty was inherited from somebody. My feet wanted to run, but my eyes wouldn't leave her as she paced back and forth in about a 12-by-12 cage. Baleful yellow eyes set in a sable-black face, ears laid back and tail lashing in anger, and lips that drew up showing the nastiest set of choppers I've ever seen. She was beautiful, all right, but my vote would have gone to the iron bars that separated us. They were downright gorgeous.
Don't waste the time on the walk back in a fort. You be a good girl. Pretty soon you and me will be good friends. You see, Mr. Dollar, right now, Ashanti, she's a very angry. She's a boil inside. But I'm a know my animals. And not long, she's going to eat out of my hand.
Yeah, well, she looks like she'd make a meal out of it right up to the elbow.
Oh,
Hey,
my
Sandro.
nose. Because what? Oh, you.
Who's this hombre?
This is Mr. Dollar. He's come from the insurance company.
Well, howdy, Mr. Dollar. I'm Tex Randall.
This is the man I tell you about.
How are you? You mean you captured this thing?
Yeah, I brung her in from the Togo territory in West Africa.
I thought my racket was tough sometimes. What'd you use, catnip?
Nope. I dug me a pit, covered her with a mat and some dirt, put me a fresh-killed goat in the middle, and when the cat fell in, I got some ropes on her and trussed her up.
Well, you make it sound simple.
Oh, see, to make it sound simple. Then why does he cheat me? Why don't stay with the first prize?
Hey, now you take a listen to me, Sandro. I told you I'd give you your money back and sell this cat somewhere else. The trip cost more than I thought it would. And I ain't about to lose dough on it just to make you happy.
Sometimes I'm thinking you don't talk straight. I'm going to go back to my elephants now, Mr. Dollar.
Okay, Mr. Sandro. I'll check with you later.
He spent too much time talking to critters. He don't make no sense out of nothing.
Right.
I'm glad you're here, Dollar. I ain't been 20 yards away from this cat since I got her here. Been bunking in that sleeping bag every night right close to the cage. Now maybe I can get a break.
Well, then you must have been here the night somebody tried to put the snatch on her. Did you spot anybody?
Nobody I could be sure of, except maybe the little blonde guy. He left me something to remember him by. Wait till I pull my shirt up. Looky there. Looky there on my back. Just took the stitches out today.
Oh, ouch.
Ouch is right. The little runt caught me half in and half out of my sleeping bag. Doc says if that knife blade had gone in another hair's breadth, I'd have been spilled.
And with that happy thought, Tex Randall, a hard man to kill, left to go into town. I watched the shanty tear into enough raw meat to keep a kennel of Great Danes happy for a week, after which she settled down for what you might call the original catnap. Sandro's elephant settled down to a short vocal lesson, and I settled down for a game of mumbly peg. But before I could get warmed up, I had a visitor.
Hello.
Wow, the Ava Gardner type with darker hair and olive skin.
You look as though you could use some company, Mr. Dollar.
Well, who couldn't? I was beginning to think the only females around here walked on all fours.
Oh, I've had the same feeling about the males. Then he didn't mention me.
Who?
Pop, the boss.
Oh, no. Sandro didn't mention much of anything but his black leopard.
Well, I'm Angela, his daughter.
Oh, I see. He probably forgot to mention you on purpose, hoping to keep my mind where it belongs, on my work.
Well, that's what I came to talk to you about. What can you do? You can't stay with Ashanti for the rest of her life, can you?
Well, before I found out about you, I would have said no.
Please be serious.
All right. There's only one thing to do. If the leopard isn't safe here, and from what I've seen and heard, I don't think she is, I'll just have to take her someplace else until this is all cleared up.
Take her someplace else?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would break Dad's heart.
It would break the heart of the company that hired me if Ashanti turned up missing. Look, he can't take her on the road until next summer. We'll keep her safe until then. I'm sorry, but it's all I can do.
Oh, poor Dad. He's going to hate you for it, you know.
Oh, well, that I can stand. But there's no sense you're wasting our time feeling the same way.
I didn't say I would, did I? As a matter of fact, I was going to stay right here until you asked me out to dinner. Or something.
Oh, well, let's not hurry. Stick around. I'll figure out where to invite you when I know you better. And there, during the waning hours of the Georgia day, I learned that, up to a point, Angela was an easy girl to know. She liked cocktails, dinner, and dancing, so that's the schedule we set up for later. As soon as Tex Randall showed up to temporarily relieve me of my duties as leopard sitter. But at martini time, I was still sitting. And may I say that the cocktail hour spent in the middle of a menagerie is not the restful period it's supposed to be. As soon as the sun dropped, the noise rose. Wild brains and caged bodies reacting to the night, instinctively telling the countryside that whether they were free or not, this was their hunting time. I not only felt like Tarzan of the Apes, I felt uneasy. The shanty complained to me. A light from somewhere behind me glinted in her eye, then disappeared as she started her back and forth pacing again. It sounded like she was trying to tell me something. She was. I was too stupid to understand it. Whatever hit me from behind didn't land hard enough. I stayed on my feet, but a pair of strong hands twisted my arms behind my back, and one hand pushed my wrists into a double hammerlock. The point of a knife was jabbed into my back and started moving me forward toward the cage. The leopard stopped her pacing as she saw me coming. She reached out between the bars for me, her great paw spread, claws extended. The last thing I saw was her snarling face and the paw reaching. Then there was a lunge behind me and something hit my head again. The cocktail hour was over. I'd passed out without a drink.
In just a moment, we will return to the second act of Johnny Dollar. But first, last week, Vaughn Monroe's Caravan saluted the Rose Bowl team. Tonight, Vaughn will play the favorite songs of Louisiana State and Oklahoma, the Sugar Bowl teams. Vaughn's Caravan will also bring you the 5 top tunes of the week as chosen by Variety, and later, Gene Autry will be here with his Western music and cowboy humor. The Vaughn Monroe Caravan and the Gene Autry Show are regular Saturday evening features of most of the same CBS stations. Now, with our star, Charles Russell, we return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Well, sir, I don't know how I lived through that one, but as it turned out, I did. When I opened my eyes, I was still in Georgia, but that condition was about all that hadn't changed, for the worse. My head was not only aching in the back, but a new lump had been born above the bridge of my nose. But nothing else had been added. When I finally got to my feet, I saw that only a trace was left of a shanty, the Black Leopard. A pair of ruts in the dirt made when her wheeled cage had been hauled away. I started out to find Sandro and a telephone, but one of my feet found something else before I'd taken 3 steps. I didn't know how he had gotten where I was supposed to be, but he'd made it. Tex Randall, his neck twisted and the marks of claws on the side of his battered head.
Police Department, Central Precinct, Sergeant Miller.
Hello, my name is Dollar. I'm an insurance investigator. I'm calling from the winter quarters of the Maximilian Sandro's Animal Show, from the owner's trailer. I want to report 2 things.
Yeah, well, wait a minute.
There's a body out here that your coroner ought to take a look at, either accidental or murder.
Well, hey, Lieutenant, get on this, will
2,
you?
grand larceny. Somebody stole a black leopard.
Oh, now listen, if this is your idea of a joke, fella,
It's too late to joke, Sergeant. Just send some men out. I'll give them the rest of the story when they get here. Joke yet? What passes for humor in Georgia, anyway? Hey, Sandro! Sandro, come home! Nobody answered me but an old Libyan lion, so I shut up. I browsed around Sandro's trailer while I was waiting for the police. I wasn't looking for anything, but I found it. On a table, there was a small Christmas tree that had been transformed into what is commonly known as a friendship tree, meaning that about a half a dozen Christmas cards were hung on with cellophane tape. There was nothing else to read, so I scanned through those. And the third one I opened my eyes. It was inscribed, "Sorry, I can't be with you. Greetings from San Francisco. Your loving daughter, Angela." Before I could fully digest that tidbit, I heard a shoe scrape on the steps outside, and the trailer door opened.
Well, here he is then. I told you we'd find him here.
Yes. Very good, my dear.
The man with the Angela by whom I had so recently been taken in looked 50-ish, capable, suntanned, and well-armed.
Well, Mr. Dollar. You don't appear to be surprised.
Well, after what's happened already tonight, I wouldn't be surprised if General Sherman dropped in on his way back from the sea.
Yes, splendid. I admire a show of courage, a sense of humor at the point of a gun.
Oh, think nothing of it. Sometimes my jokes are so funny they kill people.
I think we'd better get him out of here, Ben. I don't think it's safe.
Yes, you took the words right off the tip of my tongue, my dear. Shall we go, Mr. Dollar?
Should I ask where and why?
I've taken a small place in town. There, at our leisure, we shall discuss a fascinating subject. Namely, the whereabouts of a splendid black leopard. Move right ahead, Mr. Dollar. Oh, my dear, run up to Harold's room. Fetch him down. I may need him.
All right, then.
Into this room, Mr. Dollar. And please be seated.
If you don't mind my asking, Ben, how do you manage...
My dear sir, it just so happens that my full name and title is Sir Bennet Mountford. The term of familiarity, Ben, is to be used only by my closest friends. Now, if you will couch your question properly...
Oh, it wasn't important. I just wondered, since that gun seems to be so much a part of you, how do you manage without shooting yourself while shaving?
You've a ready wit, haven't you? I know the proper time and place for a weapon, my boy. I've learned from experience. I chose early in youth as my avocation the hunting of big game. If you had faced the last desperate charge of a wounded lion or a maddened rhino as I faced them, you too would realize that a good weapon properly aimed is man's best friend. Which brings us to the subject of our mutual interest, the black leopard. Where have you hidden her?
What makes you think I have?
No. Let's have no deception, sir. The report brought back by my charming accomplice, who so ably posed as the daughter of that stupid showman, Mr. Sandro, was that you made no secret of your plan to carry off the cat to a place of safety. You will not deny that.
Why should I? You wouldn't believe me if I did.
Yes. An admirable attitude, sir. Now, once more. Where is the leopard?
Well, if I told you, it wouldn't be worth much as a hiding place, would it?
If you do not tell me, sir, your life will be worth very little. Come now. Perhaps your loyalties are misplaced. What did that market hunter, Mr. Randall, tell you about the cat?
Not much. Except that he got a knife in the back, put there by somebody who was trying to steal her.
Well, then, sir. I'll spin you a tale that'll set your blood to pounding. What would you say, my boy, if I told you that black leopard is worth a king's ransom?
Well, I don't know. I'd probably ask why.
Well, she is, sir. And I'll tell you why. She was captured in the Togo territory, West Africa. I am quite familiar with that section. I've hunted there. A district par excellence for elephant, buffalo, and Situtanga. As a matter of fact, I was there before and shortly after Randall's infamous trapping of that fine beast. Did he tell you that?
Well, he did. Didn't make any impression. I hear there are a lot of people in Africa.
Well, to continue. The Togo territory is inhabited by the Awe tribe, a group of long-headed patrilineal people whose most interesting characteristic at this moment is the fact that they are animal worshippers. Now, does the point sink home?
Vaguely. That leopard Randall snagged is important to them. Is that it?
Yes, precisely. You've struck it. And they'll pay a veritable fortune for her return. $100,000 in gold. And now that I've
Let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. And do you have a price in mind? In return for which you will share with me the hiding place of the animal?
Yeah, you go on back to Togo, and I'll cable you the address.
It's obvious, sir, that you are not in full command of your senses. Harold! Harold!
Yes, hold your horses. I'm coming.
Look, if Harold is your violence department, Ben, you can save your breath and his muscles. I'm not having any.
Stay where you are, sir. I give you fair warning.
Oh, nuts to your fair warning. If you want to find that black leopard, and I'm the only one that knows where she is, you're not going to do it by puncturing me.
Come back here, you fool. Come back here.
Take it easy, Ben. I'll get him from the stairs. That's far enough, Mr. Dollar.
You better call off your infantry, Ben.
All right, wise guy. Here it comes.
Harold, wait. Let him go.
What's the matter? You crazy?
He's going to steal me. Let him go, lest Randall have the upper hand.
Oh, brother. As I went out, I caught a glimpse of the man Mountford had called Harold, the same little blonde runt Randall had talked about. That wrapped up the question of who had played tic-tac-toe with a knife on the Texan. But 10 yards of Sir Ben's front walk later, I suddenly remembered Mountford's last words. Lest Randall have the upper hand, he said. It sounded like he didn't know Randall was dead, which shook my head and in a strictly nonsensical way made sense. Well, there was only one place for me to go, so that's where I went. Back to Maximilian Sandro's Animal Show. When I got there, I was awake, but all the smart animals were asleep.
Mr. Dollar!
Maximilian Sandro hailed me from the lee side of a tent.
Come here, Mr. Dollar, into the shadows. The police is by my trailer.
Where have you been, Sandro?
I was hiding, but I worry so much about you. When I come back where you are, you're not there.
What do you mean by your black leopard's cage? I'd left. That place had unpleasant memories for me.
Oh, see, me too. I'm sad with it. When I see that man, Randall, he's a push you to the cage with a knife, I'm a go crazy. I'm a nothing. I'm a run up and a push. So then you fall, you hit your head in the bottom of the cage. And then Ashanti, she hit the Randall instead, and I'm so sorry.
Don't bother with an apology to me.
No, you don't understand. Look, I'm a commit the murder. With these two hands, I'm a push him on the leopard.
Oh, there's such a thing as justifiable homicide. You were saving my life. So let's not worry about it until it gets to court. If it does. Where did you take your cat?
How you know that?
Nobody else has her, so you must. You were at the right place at the right time to haul her away.
All right. I tell you true. See, I take her away where she's safe. I keep her where she is until this trouble is no more.
Oh, now, listen to me, Sandro. I know how you feel, but I've met the people who were after your leopard. They say they can get $100,000 for her back in Africa.
$100,000? Consequento.
For that kind of money, they'll never stop looking for her. The only way to stop them is to let them find her, and then we'll try and wind this thing up.
Wind up? Does it mean finish?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure I've been followed here. Now, would you take me to the hideout?
No, so there's people, they follow you there. I'm not like that.
I don't either, Sandro. $100,000 worth of cheese would even make a mouse dangerous. Sandro was a hard man to convince. I wasted more words than a Republican campaigner, and then I used blackmail. Then I told him I'd turn him in for Randall's killing and testify against him instead of for him. He saw things my way. The leopard's lair turned out to be an abandoned barn 5 miles farther out of town, to which we went in a truck that Sandro had driven into that jungle-type vacant lot.
Now come. This way, please. This way.
Okay.
It's a little side door.
Ashanti was performing that old dance of hers again, pacing the length of her cage back and forth, her head swinging rhythmically each time she turned. We'd made ourselves easy enough to follow on the way out. but my neck was getting stiff from helping my eyes follow the leopard's movements before I heard a sound outside the door. It sounded like a bolt jamming a shell into the chamber of a rifle. And that's what it was, because a rifle was what Sir Bennet Mountford was carrying when the trio came in.
Close the door, Harold.
I just did.
You, my dear, stay here out of harm's way.
Yes, Ben. I'll be all right.
Well, Mr. Dollar, I would say that the long stalk is successfully completed. The search ended.
You're quite a hunter, Mountford. Somebody should crown you with a coonskin cap, with the raccoon still living in it.
Yes. I'm glad to see you enjoying yourself, sir. Since the time for levity is on the wing, so to speak. Harold.
Yeah, name it.
Keep these two in your sights with a ready finger on the trigger. I'll set about putting this vicious cat out of existence.
No, he's not shooting my Ashanti.
Hey, Mountford, are you crazy? Put that rifle down.
Shut up, Dollar. You aren't running things.
Mountford, if that cat's worth $100,000 alive, why kill her?
Because we shall realize a much greater profit with her dead. Namely, $500,000 in uncut diamonds that are hidden in the floor of her cage.
Diamonds? Well, they couldn't have been safer, could they?
Precisely Randall's idea when he put them there in Africa. Now stand aside, sir. I don't wish to fire through your head, but I will if I must.
No, he's not shooting my Ashanti.
Hey, watch that maniac. He's going to let that cat out.
Ben, stop him!
Stop her! Don't move. I'll meet her charge.
No, Ashanti, run for your life.
Mountford had a lot of guts, but sometimes luck helps, and that night he didn't have any. Ashanti sprang straight through the little door of her cage. She was still in the air when she went past him, head high, and as she did, one of her fatal front paws reached out for him. It looked almost delicate, but the force of the blow sent Mountford clear across the barn, and when he landed, he didn't move. Ashanti streaked toward a square of night sky showing through a window, and she was gone.
Ashanti, come back.
I turned back, away from the window, to check on the rest of our guests, but they were gone. Apparently, there was something about a leopard on the loose that had made $500,000 in diamonds not as important to Harold and the phony Angela as distance between them and that barn. So, there I was, suddenly left with nothing to worry about. If you can call enough diamonds to stock the Kimberley mines, nothing. Expense account, item 2. Item 2? A case like this and I haven't laid up a cent. Oh, well, Christmas is coming. Item 2, $3. Cab fare from Brunswick Police Headquarters to hotel after giving them my statement, which they didn't believe until they saw those diamonds. Then they sent out a 3-state alarm to pick up the phony Angela and Montford's shiv-man, Harold. And expense account, item 3, $70.21. Train and cab fare, Brunswick to Hartford. Oh, and this advice I'll toss in for free. At last report, Ashanti was seen headed west toward Okefenokee Swamp, and Sandra was organizing a group to go after her. My advice is this. Don't insure the lives of those men. If you want to throw your money away, throw it to me. Let's see, expense account total, $152.70. Signed, yours truly, Johnny, Frank Buck, Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Charles Russell. Tonight's script by Paul Dudley and Gil Dowd was produced and directed by Ralph Rose. Featured in the cast were Lynn Allen, Larry Dobkin, Bill Conrad, and Parley Bear. The special music is written and conducted by Leith Stevens. Your announcer, Bob Stevenson. Be sure to be with us at the same time next week when another unusual expense account is handed in by
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
That's the American way. Working together to produce more per man, per machine, per hour, so that everybody on the team benefits. The American economic system is geared to benefit all of the people. Under this system, everybody moves together toward the common goal of better living. The better we produce, the better we live. For your free copy of the booklet, The Miracle of America, write Box 10, Times Square Station, New York City. Stay tuned now for Vaughn Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately on most of the same CBS stations. This is CBS, where yours truly, Johnny Dollar, meets adventure every Saturday night, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, threatening the guy with blackmail. Well, Johnny Dollar can be a little ruthless when he needs to get something done. In this case, getting rid of the bad guys. That pamphlet about America sounds pretty interesting. Too bad they're not offering that anymore. Got a comment from Alyssa who says, I've been listening to old-time radio since I was in 8th grade and starting out with the comedies like The Life of Riley, Fibber, McGee, and Molly and R. Miss Brooks. Now, I'm almost 20 years old and have since added many of the detective shows to my list of all-time's favorite. This show and your Dragnet show are two of my favorite podcasts. Love it. Keep it up, and thanks for sharing some of the classics with the new generation. Well, thanks so much, Alyssa. And there are quite a few people, not quite, the survey says not a whole lot that are as young as Alyssa. But our audience, I think the interesting thing we learned from the audience survey, about 46% of our listeners are under age 45. And it's slightly higher on Dragnet. I think that being able to bring these to iTunes and just the ever-increasing availability of more of these programs, I hope that's going to be key, is getting people to be interested in it from generation to generation. Because if the only people who wanted to see Casablanca were people who had seen it when it was in theaters, you could not get it anywhere. So, I'm glad to hear people coming in and starting to listen from old generations. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap it up. We'll be back on Monday with Box 13, and next Friday, our final episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, featuring Charles Russell, and then a week after that, we get into Edmund O'Brien. Well, any comments, email me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley. That's podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And become a fan of the show on Facebook, facebook.greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter @Radio Detectives. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.